digging in, getting ready for what comes. I'm digging in, nowhere for me to run. Gloves are coming off, I'm still looking for what's lost. Tonight, I'm digging in. I'm gonna go face my past. This mess I'm in is closing in so fast. So many nights I've wasted and all the dreams I'm chasing. Tonight, I'm digging in. Oh, I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it. Yeah, I'm ready for it all. I'm digging in. Ain't gonna back down. I'll shake it off. I'll get up off the ground. I've heard the gold bells ring. I've heard the saints sing. But tonight, I won't give in. Oh, I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it. Yeah, I'm ready for it all. I've lost my ways, I've made mistakes. For all the hearts I had to break, I only did what I knew how to do. Forget about the pain I've caused. Nothing comes without a cost. Pay the price, just like we all do. Just like we have to. I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it all. I'm ready for it. Yeah, I'm ready for it all.
Okay, hello everyone. I hope everyone's having a absolute wonderful day. Today is Thursday, the 9th of September, 2021. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about lots of stuff. We're going to watch a little short video. We're going to talk a little bit about greenifying the desert. We're going to talk about ways that you can grow your own food and take some control back of your life, and some stuff you can start doing now today. So regardless of what the silliness happens out there in the world, how you can start getting control of your food and start being healthier, because that's kind of the goal, is what we want to talk about most of the time, is how you can be a better version of you. And so we're going to jump back in. We've got Mark and Mock waiting in the wings. And again, if anybody wants to join, you guys are always welcome to jump in. And there is the Discord link. Yes, it worked. You guys are always welcome to jump in and such like that. So, again, the first little bit, we're going to jump over and talk a little bit about the video that we're going to watch, Greenifying the Desert. So let me figure out why. There it is. So we're going to jump in and see Mark and Mock now. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Doc. Welcome back. I think Mark hasn't quite come back yet, but he'll be here in a second.
Okay. I got my phone. I was making sure the audio was on way too loud, so I got that turned down. So we were those that are just tuning in, we were chit-chatting a little bit about all the stuff. I actually I think I made the mistake today, and I do not think that I updated the title properly, because I did not update the title properly. So I'm going to fix that real fast, because this is we're going to call this chatting, and this is the MesoVerse show, and we're just going to call it food. Perfect. Because there we go. I don't know why I've totally forgot to, just edit that, but I did. So now that the housekeeping is done, hello Dan. Welcome. Some of the stuff we'll be watching, some of it is, there's a few parts that are in your part of the world. So I guess since Mock is away, I will just we'll start some of this video and go from there. My volume is lower than the Discord. Okay. Thank you. Let's get that managed first. Let's see if that solved the issue. And get the video set up. And I need to share the video in Discord so everybody will be able to see it. Okay, and I guess here we go. We're gonna start the video. So this is the video is about how you can make abundance in a desert area. So that's what we're gonna watch a little bit about today, and then we'll comment on it back and forth and such like that.
In the news, California often grabs the headlines. The agriculture is suffering from a lack of water, and farms are being abandoned at an alarming rate. But some people seem to have found a solution.
I'm back. Sorry, guys.
I'm Eric Olson. I am a permaculture designer, educator, and small business owner. And I run two organizations, one called Permaculture Artisans. We're a professional landscape design contracting company. And a second organization called the Permaculture Skill Center, which is a vocational training school and business incubator.
Now there's less snow to store the water in the mountains of the Sierra Nevada. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, the states that are at risk for drought and severe droughts are in the western United States.
Right now, the Central Valley is drying up like a prune. The soils cannot provide for the agricultural production any longer. We need to find the will, and we need to find the investment now
I got
to
my internet
transition to
back.
ecological
Hey,
practices.
we're watching a
Or
video.
there will be no agriculture economy in California in the future.
In the milieu of permaculture, they believe droughts don't have to necessarily lead to disasters. According to Eric Holtzen, we can do more with the water California has.
We design systems that catch and infiltrate the water. For instance, often permaculturists talk about these swale systems. And a swale is essentially a big ditch that's on contour. So that means that every point along the bottom of that ditch is the same elevation. So when it rains and water fills up that swale, it actually fills up like a bathtub. And what happens is the water has an opportunity to soak down into the soil. For instance, a lot of industrial agriculture systems end up creating a crustification on the surface of the soil through overplowing and over tracking with machines and such. So what happens in that scenario is then when it rains, the water just hits the surface, it can't get into the soil, so it washes off. So our goal is to create these opportunities for the water to actually infiltrate into the ground.
So I wanted to jump in there for a second. So what we're describing is he's just mentioning some ideas. So even here where it's not where we're not in a crazy area where I have plenty of water and such to worry about, what he's describing is how to slow water down is really the fundamental issue. Like one of the problems with the way cities are currently designed is water is sped up because it lands on the cement or it lands on the asphalt or even
We call it mud. He's right. He's trying to invent.
No. Well, what he's doing is he's not inventing anything. He's just adding ditch. Really, it's really simple. All he's doing is adding ditches to the landscape. It's what nature naturally wants to do. It wants to make ditches at places. It wants to have uneven ground. Is fundamentally what you're doing. You're making uneven ground so that water can sit places so that it goes slower.
But
channels of water.
Water can eventually level everything.
Oh yeah,
if
water.
It's got river running, then it's going to carve something.
Yeah, I mean, it's just this idea. This idea is the thing of swells that you're going to hear a lot of people talk about, and you're going to hear some more in this video. The thing with swells is usually designed for areas where drought is a lot more common. So if you live in an area where you don't usually have to worry about drought, then swells don't make as much sense. Like I used to try to do swells here, and then I just realized that I didn't need the water to do that. I actually am better off by putting in ponds, and such like that. So, but we're specifically watching this video where this dude lives out in California, and especially some of the areas where it's getting bad. So.
Now, depending on your soil ecosystems, whether you have sandy soil or loam or clay, a lot of different approaches will be necessary. That's one of the beauties of applying permaculture, is that we don't look at solutions in a one-size-fits-all approach.
Many permaculture farmers and educators have established projects around the world. Generally, in this part of Jordan, there's almost no rainfall. Temperatures in August are over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. The local farmers are typically farming under plastic, spray pesticides, and use industrial fertilizers. Here, there are too many grazing animals stripping the land from its vegetation. So Jeff Lawton designed a 10-acre system that would harvest almost every single raindrop that fell on it with a 1.5 kilometer swale. When the rain falls, 1 million liters of water are soaking into the landscape and filling the swale a few times throughout the winter.
So I want to mention what's super interested about how they're doing this over in the Middle East and such is the swell ideas. Is if you go back and you look what the ancient Egyptians did, and even what the Mayans and some other stuff, they actually knew how to practice this type of landscaping to capture and to slow water down and to keep water in particular areas. You'll see as they've done archaeological digs and such like that, especially in areas that don't receive a lot of water. They'll see this kind of landscape, and they know that they built this kind of landscape because they can tell by the different types of plants. Like the plants that are inside the bottom of the swell there are going to be more of an aquatic algae type plants, and then the plants that are going to be more on the upside of the swells or up on the hillsides, those plants are going to be more designed for that are going to be more that can hold water and retain water for a long period of time. So it's kind of interesting that we're kind of going full circle, that we're remembering what our ancestors used to know. It's almost like knowledge is, never lost. It's just rediscovered. Or re-remembered, maybe.
They mulched with organic matter, 0.5 meter deep and 2 meters wide on each side of the swale. Then they put micro-irrigation underneath the mulch. In addition, they started to plant local pioneer desert trees for shade and to reduce evaporation. The roots structured the soil and provided nitrogen. And on the other side of the swale, date, fig, pomegranates, guavas, and mulberries and citrus trees are added. Within 4 months, the system was starting to produce fruit.
Land restoration is vital on planet Earth right now. So many of our ecosystems have been damaged due to human land use patterns. What happens with a damaged ecosystem is the ecological services that it provides that community, whether it be plants, animals, or humans, become less abundant. It's difficult to put a price on things like clean water. It's difficult to put a price on things like clean air and a healthy watershed. Our human culture has become quite disconnected with essentially what we might consider as free resources or services that the environment provides for us. That time is over. Climate crisis is in full effect, and it's absolutely having an effect on the health and safety of our communities around this planet.
So I'm gonna add to that. I agree with that statement as much as that statement sounds very lefty and greeny. The thing is we've got silly and we've got dumb with the way we've allowed certain things to happen. And I'm guessing what we're gonna hear as we progress through is solutions on how we can simply fix that.
I don't think that's a lefty comment. I think that
Well,
most people on the right are aware that we're polluting, and they're just aware of the differences. And the left are, I'm not sure the divide's quite like that, but yeah. So sorry, Karen.
No. That's a very good point. I just know some people, their gut reaction is when they hear pollution, they think that he's just talking about CO2 and all that other kind of stuff, where I'll be honest, most permaculturists love CO2 because it means that they can grow more plants, and growing more plants means it's faster to be able to terraform the desert and such like that. So
There's a good side to this, and that good side is this. The ability to restore our ecosystems is also an opportunity to transition our economy from one that is damaging and destructive of our environment to one that can restore it. We can actually develop new job markets, new opportunities to provide for social benefit by restoring our ecosystems. I believe the water crisis in California has been framed from a crisis point of view. And while we certainly are in a long-term drought, we also have incredible water abundance even in a drought. For instance, here in Northern California, right where we are now, we've got around 20 inches of rain this year, which is about half of a normal rain year. But if you put it into perspective, 1 inch of rain over 1 acre is 27,000 gallons of water. So in a 20-inch year, we have hundreds of thousands of gallons of potentially harvestable water right here in these landscapes. So while we are in a drought, we need to reframe the crisis in terms of the real crisis, and that is, it's a runoff crisis. So these are situations that we have solutions to, solutions that we can implement today through what we call a slow it, spread it, sink it approach. Gray water is a very important factor in how we move into a water abundant future. Here in the United States, humans use on average 100 gallons per person per day. And much of that water gets wasted and goes right into our sewer systems, our drainage systems, and out into the ocean. Imagine all of that water that is used in our homes through washing, through bathing, through laundry, gets reused directly into our landscapes, gets converted directly into food, gets converted directly into habitat, converted.
So I want to mention, we've actually converted. We have some systems that run on gray water. We have our bathtub, our downstairs bathtub, and our downstairs washing machine. We converted over to a gray water system, just because there was downfalls to running laundry soap into your septic tank. Now we've since changed over, and we don't even use any type of harmful soap. The dish soap that we use, the washing soap that we use, is actually, you could actually drink it. It has no warning label on it. But that is something that a lot of people don't consider. But what's really cool is most of that detergent, with the exception of some really, really sensitive plants, most of that detergent that you have in your washing machine and in that you bathe in, most of that can be put right into the soil. And there's a handful of plants that can, even if it's a pretty harsh chemical, like maybe you're adding a little bit of bleach to your clothes, there are actually plants that you can have it go through first that can withstand that, especially with the amount of water that you're going to run through that. So,
Sunflowers.
yeah, sunflowers are a great example. Sunflowers are a great example of a plant that's very, very tolerant of poor quality water, and just letting it go through that, they're going to naturally filter it out. And there's lots of ways, and if you live in a city, if you think about how much like gray water, usable water, you just push down the plug hole and into the sewers, that there's no reason for that water to be there. And if you could just reuse that, especially if you live someplace that's high drought, I'll give an example to even throw this in. So there was a person out in California talking about how they're going to have to make a choice between doing laundry or taking a shower. And I made a comment to them. I'm like, I don't understand why it's one or the other. Like, there's lots of ways that you can utilize your shower water, especially like if you're a person that takes a shower fairly regularly, you're not going to be, really nasty dirty, and so you can use most of that water to wash your laundry in. So there's ways to capture that. One way is just put a bucket in your shower so that the shower head is, and then wash yourself over the bucket, so a lot of the stuff goes down there. And another is to easily, depending on how your bathroom is set up, it should actually be pretty easy to find the bottom of the shower and just collect that water that way. So there's lots of different ways to do that, and then you could just dump that right into your washing machine.
Well, rather than use it with the washing machine, I'd rather use it to flush the toilet.
I was about to say that you can use it to flush the toilet,
or use it, or exactly use it to flush. I was just using. Only reason I was mentioning it for the wash machine is because she was mentioning that it's an either or type situation. But you're right. Like, yeah, you could take all of the good water out of the back of the tank of your.
If it was some of that bath water that Golf sells on Twitch, then that's crystal clean stuff. The really high quality stuff. Then that'll be alright. But
if you guys also want to save water, what you can do is get a gallon jug and actually put it in the back of your toilet. Like a half-gallon milk jug.
Yep.
You just take the lid off and you let it fill up.
You just want the bottom of you want your bathroom to be above your toilet, right? And you just have a tank between the two, so that's it. And it just goes in, and you want a ball cock that's halfway up that tank that tops it up if there's not enough water in them from the bath to flush the toilet. But most of the time, it doesn't need to be used because it's always been flushed with the water that's in that tank.
I know somebody who really cheaply, inexpensively, that doesn't even know a whole lot about plumbing. What they did is they plumbed their shower into a 55 gallon drum, and they have that so that when that tops off, it just goes into their sewer. And then inside that 55 gallon drum, they put a fish aquarium pump with a bilge pump that leads to the back of their toilet. And so they've got a couple. They've got a couple hoses running from, through the floor by the back of the toilet, but they just fill up the back of the toilet with a bilge pump from their shower water. Nice. And like Mark said, if need be, you have it so that you can, turn back on the faucet underneath and fill the water back up, or, you can always just take a gallon jug and just pour it in the toilet, and it flushes it by itself.
If you go through these steps, you're saving money.
Sometimes when Golf flushes, he flushes and pours a gallon jug in as well, just to make sure.
Yeah, I get confused sometimes.
Just to make sure, yeah.
Especially after Taco Tuesday, Jesus.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the video.
Directly into soil. In my opinion, this is a no-brainer solution that we can implement immediately. There's absolutely no reason why we can't implement a 100% water reuse program in every one of our households today. The gray water system that we have here is a laundry into the landscape system. And it's a very simple passive system. It operates on gravity. And what happens is, as the water flows through a pipe, we've set the pipe level, and we've put the pipe in what we call a mulch basin. As water comes out of the washing machine, it enters into a few different areas. We call them surge tanks. And that allows that water to infiltrate right into the ground. The water never daylights. So that means that we don't see the water. There's no issue for mosquitoes or anything like that, but the water has the ability to just slowly infiltrate into the ground. And we've planted this mulch basin with fruit trees and herbaceous plants. So those plants are able to directly utilize that water every single day, every time the washing machine goes on. So I'm standing here in our mulch basin. It's this long dugout ditch on contour filled with biomass. And every few feet here, we have these tanks. We call them surge tanks, just a little valve box. And the gray water comes through a pipe. And in every one of these surge tanks, we have a little valve. And some of that water comes into the mulch basin right here in a variety of different locations. And these fruit trees and other herbaceous plants are able to utilize all of that wonderful gray water, nutrient-rich, day-to-day resource.
To reuse the water from your laundry machine, it is better to choose a green detergent, sodium-free.
Hang on a minute. Hey,
I have a question.
yeah, you telling me you can just pump the water out of your washing machine into your garden?
Yeah, but what about the chemicals, like the
No,
bleach?
yeah,
and stuff
yeah.
I don't
like
believe
that?
that's true.
In most cases, you can, especially if you don't use a lot of bleach, because if you do it through a slow trickle and you're doing it underground, it's going through a lot of dirt before it ever reaches the plants and such like that. So imagine let me see. Imagine running a long perf pipe that's got a bunch of perf holes in it, and that's how you're running it out to your garden.
If you're using some hippie detergent that's not got any like chemicals in it, then maybe. But if you're using Daz or Bold or the big box,
Kill your own garden.
the big box powders that your mum buys from Walmart, then really, can you do it with that?
Yeah. Let me see. Let's see.
Would
what
it be safe to do it with that? So, I mean, you could do it with it, but I mean,
yeah, I could write regularly. But I get what he's saying. Like it's appearing underground, but still, like it's gonna just. Maybe this is just telling us something that we don't know, and that
Okay.
this is the.
So I'm going to just go with I'm going to go with just American washing machines, because that's what I can look up here real fast. The typical energy saving American washing machine uses between 20 to 30 gallons of water per wash cycle. So
okay, so it's not as bad as I thought.
So that's a lot. That's a lot of water. I mean, remember, like you can, if you're bleaching your clothes, you're really only adding like a half a cup, and a half a cup of bleach is safe to drink for people. I'm trying to think. Let's see. Half a cup is how many tablespoons?
I think it's 12 tablespoons or 6, one of the two.
Half a cup is eight tablespoons, and so you add 1 tablespoon per gallon, roughly. You can actually add a little bit more of that to make a gallon of water safe to drink. So that would mean 8 gallons. So you're actually, if you're doing 30 gallons of water, then
So it's 30 tablespoons.
well, yeah, no, but that's 8 because if you're doing bleach, most people put in about a half a cup of bleach for a full load. That will bleach out. That will
Okay.
bleach your clothes pretty well. So if a half a cup of bleach is 8 tablespoons, and the rule of thumb is 1 tablespoon per 1 gallon, then you're making that water. You're reducing the amount of bleach in that water by a lot. So you're making it very. You could definitely drink it. Absolutely drink it. So
I'm not so bothered about the bleach. I'm bothered about, like, you get two types of washing powder, right? You get ones that work and ones that don't. And the ones that work are like they're biotic. Yeah, there's like what is it? They're doing a biotic thing, which all the hippie ones aren't. And that it's that biotic reaction, which if lots of that gets out in your flower bed, I don't know how your roses are going to react to that.
okay, well, your roses might not like it. I agree with that. There's plants. There's absolutely plants, because you're going to also be changing the pH of the soil. There's going to totally be plants that don't like that, but you're still going to be watering it down to a pretty decent amount. So He detergent is a typical brand, and I'm seeing how much they're saying that you should mix into. Okay, so He detergent. He detergent is He detergent is a type of commercially made detergent. The He is just the He just tells you that's it's for high efficiency washing machines, which most of our washing machines that use that little bit is high efficiency. With a regular wash, you need about 1/4 of a cup of the He detergent for that 30-gallon wash. So it's pretty much going to be going. You're not going to notice, besides changing the pH and such like that, you're not going to really notice it going into your plants. Again, there's a huge difference between sending this on the surface and sending this underground, because on the surface, that detergent and such is going to stick to the leaves, and it's going to mess with photosynthesis and a lot of stuff. When it goes into the ground, some of that detergent is going to stick on the rocks, some of it's going to stick to the clay, and some of it is going to stick to the roots as well. But underground, it's not going to be as harmful as if you put it on the surface. So that is one of the keys. Is it has to be in pipes underneath the soil.
I don't know. All I know is that in the UK, you can only have like what he's building there is what we'd call a soakaway.
Okay.
Like if you build a soakaway, then you can do that for rainwater. Like if you don't want to pay the council to take away your rainwater, you can get a reduced sewage bill a little bit if you've got your own soakaway. But you can do that. Obviously with your own sewage, you can't just pump this, because you need a proper septic tank. What you're saying is that you don't need a septic tank for your washing machine. You can just pump it into your garden, straight into what we'd call a soakaway.
Wouldn't it matter about your state laws against that too?
Most states don't. Most states don't have problems with gray water. Gray water, at least here in the States, with the exception. Now there are some cities. There are some city ordinances and such like that have deals with gray water. But like, for example, in Florida, a lot of people don't know this. Most people's outside hose pipes are just gray water. They come from their water machine.
Really?
Yes, that's why you cannot drink from a hose in Florida, because you're drinking soapy, suddy water. So that's something that Florida, because of not. They wanted the least amount of water to go into their sewers and such like that. They had everybody take their gray water and put it to their outside hoses. So
That's pretty neat.
Well, over the whole of Florida, there everybody's got that.
yeah, almost anybody that's had a house built from the 50s forward, that's how they build or modify houses now. Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go back to the video.
We're back in Jordan. Here, Jeff Lawton has worked on several permaculture projects using gray water, different water harvesting methods, fruit forests, kitchen gardens, mulch, and compost. The quality of the soil is always central. If people living in a country of dry land can arrive to this level of abundance with so few resources, what a rich country will be able to do.
So here you go. You can change that into this, and you can truly solve all the world's problems in a garden.
In California, the rainfalls are still more important than in Jordan. Water catchment systems like this one can be very helpful.
What happens is, as the water comes off of the roof of the house, it first goes through a sediment filter to ensure that leaves and debris and such don't get into the tank. And then it goes into what's called a first flush system. The first flush is a large pipe with a ball inside, just a children's juggling ball inside. And so what happens is, as the water flows into that pipe, it fills this chamber up with what we call the first flush. The ball inside the pipe rises as the chamber fills with water. And when the ball reaches the top of the chamber, it shuts the chamber off and water is able to enter into the tank. Now, the reason why this is so important, especially in California, is because we get rain in events. So we don't have one steady few months where we have a little bit of rain every single day. We'll get a large rain event, and then we may have 2 or 3 weeks of sun, and then we'll get another large rain event. And during those breaks in between storms, the roof of our house can get dirt and dust and debris and such. And we don't want those things to go into our tank and sedimentize the tank. So we have this first flush device that takes all that first washed water, the water that washes the roof at the beginning of a storm, and it separates it from the tank. Now we like to create systems that are very automatic. So our first flush system has a valve at the bottom, and we open that valve just a little tiny bit so that when it rains, it fills the chamber up in a quick rain event, fills our tank, and then when the storm passes, the water slowly drips out of the first flush and resets the ball down at the bottom, and now the first flush system is ready for the next storm. It's almost zero maintenance system, and the amount of water that we can catch is absolutely amazing. 1 inch of rain on 1,000 square feet of roof equals 635 gallons of water. So in a 20-inch rain event on a 1,000 square foot roof, there's tens of thousands of gallons of water that we can actually catch and store.
So I want to add, like, that's if you live in a rain-rich area, like where it's easy, where it rains a whole lot, like you actually could have all the water you would ever need, even for your own home. Like, technically, most people, with us having roofs on our house, most people, you should never actually have to pay for water almost any place on the planet, as long as you had a nice storage. A place to store the amount of water that you need, and you understood your annual rainfall.
The thing, can I point some stuff out now? Maybe my mic's working.
Oh yeah.
Oh. Gotcha.
Interesting. It just quit working. Sound everything a few minutes ago. Like I unplugged my stuff.
It said no.
One of the things I've seen about a lot of these systems and needs to be pointed out is a lot of people don't know how to store their water. They think, oh, you can just put it in a container and wait and come back and drink it later. No, you're going to get Legionnaires and many other diseases that you could kill yourself that you cannot get out with a filter. Legionnaires will devastate people.
let me pause here for just 1 second. That is absolutely true. What he's particularly talking about in the video that we're watching, I added that little bit about having enough water for you to drink. He's simply just talking about irrigation water. Like the water that he's collecting and such like that is, he's mostly just talking about using it for irrigation and pouring it and watering your plants and saving it for. Yeah.
Something I was wanting to point out about a lot of these systems though is when you're reusing a water and reusing it, and you're reusing it as a gray water, don't ever drink that water again and think you're going to get all that soap and stuff out of it, because you're not. And it's can get dangerous because people are not diluting it no more. And dilution helps get water cleaner and back and dilute it and then put it back into the ground.
Yeah, like for people that have the closed, so I actually know somebody that has a closed circuit water. So all of their gray water ultimately becomes drinking water. But like Mock said, their gray water system brings in fresh water, a small amount of fresh water, to dilute that before it goes through the filter, so they can properly filter out the stuff. But it also has fresh water mixed in with the gray water so that it's easier and safer to drink, so that if that filter happens to fail or the filter doesn't filter that well, you're not getting high doses of whatever is in that gray water that you don't want to be gray water drinking. But gray water usually, in most cases, unless you know what you're doing about having a whole house filtration system, most gray water is best to use for irrigation and things of that sort.
Plants and recycling it for that, and flushing the toilet. And
but what I was saying about the systems where you capture all your rainwater, if you know what you're doing or you have one of those professionally set up, you absolutely can never have to pay for water again. But the key is know what you're doing or have it professionally set up so things like Legionnaire disease, like Mock's talking about, doesn't occur.
I just wanted to point out, because some people think that they can just start storing water and recycling it and reusing it, and eventually that water is going to be so contaminated you can't use it.
Nope, very good point.
We actually need to just turn all of our landscapes
I like
into
his
large
garden.
infiltration systems and absorption systems. There's a variety of techniques that we utilize in doing that. One are these contour swale systems. There's also another technique we use called the rain garden, which is essentially a shallow pit that allows water to infiltrate into the ground. Rain gardens are great for urban environments because they have the highest surface to volume ratio because they're circular. So you can infiltrate a large amount of water in a small space. As well, there's times where we actually look at terracing an entire property, depending on the soil structure, the various situations that influence our decision there. In the end, it's all about slowing water down and allowing the land to absorb it. Often what goes unspoken is the soil's ability to hold and absorb water itself. So while we talk a lot about infiltration systems and rain gardens and terraces, it's equally as important to build our topsoil in such a way that it actually acts like a sponge. And we literally can turn every single landscape into a huge water sponge. Think about if you took a house sponge and you got it wet with water, and then you squeeze that water out. It's a significant amount of water that a material that acts like a sponge is able to hold and capture. So if we take the surface of all of our landscapes and we build soil through the application of compost and other organic matter like mulch, leaves, plant debris, woody debris, all of these reuses of what some may consider waste actually help build our soil. For instance, what we often see in an urban environment is people cleaning up all the fallen leaves from their deciduous trees, bagging them up in black plastic bags, and in many communities that goes to the garbage, or it might go to a compost facility and then turned into compost. But those leaves are part of the cycle in which our plant community actually replenishes the soil. with biomass, with material that worms and bacteria and other microorganisms consume. These organisms actually create topsoil. The goal is to move our soil into soil that has a high volume of humus. Humus is the fully decomposed organic matter, and humus has an incredible ability to absorb water and hold water into the dry season. We often don't know what to do with our woody debris. When we have large trees that have to come down in urban communities, often they're managing urban treescapes, and a lot of that material again becomes quote-unquote waste. We like to incorporate a lot of the systems I've described into very dynamic, diverse type systems. And what I mean by that is, let's say we dig a ditch on contour, a swale system like we've discussed before. We can actually take our woody debris, the logs and material that we don't know what to do with, and we can put it into these contour ditches. Then we can cover that woody debris with mulch. So what happens is we don't see this ugly material. Most people don't find it very aesthetic. But when it does rain, the water soaks all of this woody debris in such a way where the woody debris actually turns into a sponge. It absorbs that water, and as our stormy wet season goes by and we move into our dry season, here in California we have a very long dry season, that water is actually held in the woody debris itself and becomes accessible to plant communities planted nearby. I like to call these carbon sponges.
So yeah, I want to mention that. I know a lot of folks. I know a lot of folks that spend a lot of time raking up their leaves and then it just goes to the landfill. And in reality, if you're living in an area like you live in a suburb or something like that, you should be taking those leaves. And even if you don't want them necessarily in your garden, you don't want them in your lawn, you can put them in your flower gardens, you can put them in your back garden, you can just do a lot of stuff with them and still have that, that pretty nice front yard of just grass. And not actually have to pay to have that taken away, because you're really just wasting so much awesome stuff by just doing that.
If you're in a place that's got worms.
Well, even if you're not in a place that has worms, so even if you're not in a place that has worms, and there's not many of those places, but you're correct about that. Some of the stuff leaves will actually break down pretty quickly even without worms, because that's just what they're meant to do. They're meant to refertilize the tree and to add that nutrients back to the tree and to make, suitable homes for future trees. Mark, do you guys in your experience with most of the city life and such that you've had experience, do people rake up their leaves and then take them to the landfill or throw them away?
A lot of people put it in like a little bin that's actually collected by the council these days. They have like a little green bin. They put their clippings in there.
Okay, so and the council probably uses that for compost. They probably have like some city compost or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I've got my own compost heap, but a lot of people have got compost heaps as well. But still, a lot of people do actually have their garden waste collected by the council.
That's so weird to me, but I guess to each their own.
They really do. Like they pay a little bit extra for it, and they have it collected.
Ponds are a great element to incorporate into any landscape or farm. They're a really good representation of this principle we use in permaculture, which is called stacking functions. That means that for every element that we place in a system, it provides multiple functions for that system. For example, a pond can be used to catch and store rainwater. Again, 1 inch of rainwater over 1 acre equals 27,000 gallons. So the ability to catch and store all of the winter rain in tanks is usually not feasible for most people because tanks are very expensive. Ponds, on the other hand, can be a lot cheaper to install, and their ability to catch and store water is much greater. We can actually catch and store millions of gallons of water through surface ponds. Ponds are a great water storage system, but we gain a lot of other benefit from doing that. See, in the dry season here in California, one issue we have is that habitat that actually helps manage our gardens, landscapes, and farms, lizards, salamanders, snakes, birds, bees, frogs, and insects, they all need water to survive. And if we don't provide them with some sort of water source in the dry season, then they're not able to thrive, stick around, and provide all the other benefits that they provide for our ecosystems. Ponds provide a whole variety of different benefits. For instance, a large pond can become a safety backup in case of a fire. So essentially what that means, if the fire department or CAL FIRE know that you have a large enough surface pond that they can dip a helicopter catchment device in, they'll utilize that in fighting fires. This generally helps for defensible space. So that's one really great benefit, especially in the more rural communities. Ponds also have this amazing ability to manage microclimates. See, water has the properties of thermal mass. So during the day when the sun is out, water actually absorbs heat. And at nighttime, when the sun goes down, it radiates that heat out into the environment around it. So we will often, if we want to grow citrus trees in a cool climate or other frost-sensitive plants, we'll look to either implementing ponds or utilizing existing ponds as a way to just get a little benefit. It's not a huge benefit, but incorporated with a few other microclimate moderation techniques, we can usually create a scenario where plants that wouldn't thrive anywhere else in a landscape can actually thrive near a pond. The additional
So I do want to mention, you can also do the same thing. It'll also keep things cooler and the humidity higher in particular areas. So that's another benefit. Like if you're not always trying to warm things up, or you're not trying to do that, there's a lot of benefits to having a pond and the microclimates that it makes. Like I'm just a big fan of having as many varieties of microclimates on your property as possible, because each microclimate has the potential of growing something different. And sometimes, a 1 or 2 temperature variant, or even a half a temperature variant, can be enough that can make one plant thrive and another plant just do okay.
benefit is that ponds also reflect light. So if you have particular plants that need a lot of light and heat to ripen the fruit on, you can actually place those near a pond, and during the day when the sun is out, you get a lot of reflected light onto that plant, and it actually ripens your fruit a lot faster. So water comes off of the gutter, off the roof of the house here, goes into this sediment filter. This allows us to filter out all of the little bit of sediment here. Comes in here to a first flush system, goes down and right into the pond there. And when this pond overflows, it overflows into a swale system over there under the apple tree, which hydrates that whole landscape.
In the milieu of permaculture, the pond is generally considered to be one of the best integrated pest management systems. It attracts beneficial insects and provides homes for dragonflies, frogs, salamanders, snakes, and lizards, and they manage the pests in your garden. In the Permaculture Skills Center in Sebastopol, California, this is the Program Director, Ryan Johnston.
This is a relatively new system. It was actually replanted after being reconstructed about a week ago, and so these plants are just taking root again. But plants that you often use in this system are both rushes and sedges. These two are rushes here. We have a cattail over here in the corner as well, and an equisetum, a small equisetum down there. When choosing plants that are appropriate for this, you want to really make sure that they don't over-colonize your system as a whole, and so you want to choose mindfully. The water is pumped through that gravel bed, and beneficial bacteria living in the roots of these rushes purify the water before returning it back to the pond. This pond system provides a year-round water source for birds and bees and butterflies, amphibians, reptiles, which serve a beneficial function in the garden, but the pond itself can also grow fertility You can harvest these rushes back or other plants that are growing, turn them into compost or use them as mulch. You can grow food in the system as well in the form of fish or even aquatic plants such as perhaps wasabi.
In Arizona, Jeff Lawton, a permaculture teacher, explains why a check dam can be so useful to harvest water.
This is a check dam built in the 1930s by the Soil Conservation Department, and it holds back a silt field. It's actually as deep as this canyon is, as deep as this wall, and you can see at the bottom there are leaking water seeps. Just at the height of the check dam wall here, you can see there's a tide line of residue. This is organic matter harvested by the water, so we're harvesting water and organic matter if we do the right thing. And here we can always check these sort of drift tide lines to see how high the water was coming across any feature, and this is the top of the check dam wall, so it's about that high. No more than 6 inches of water spread right across the top level edge. So just below the surface of the silt field, you can see it's obviously more damp. The moisture here is held away from the sun, resisting evaporation. It's only moisture, but that's all you need in the desert. That's all you need for production, just that bit of extra moisture.
So I just want to add, the other good thing about that is if it's something that you're doing on a small scale yourself, you can also then harvest a lot of that silt for to mix in with your compost and to mix in with other stuff and make some really, really nice topsoil with that. So because it's gonna have a lot of micronutrients, especially from being in the water or from being brought by the water and such like that. So there's a lot of cool stuff. Actually, I just looking at that, I think that might actually I might want to try to build one of those at my one pond this year, just because part of my problem is my pond fills up with silt so quickly. So having a little silt dam, that might actually be a decent solution.
We're on the edge of the silt field of the check dam, and here this acacia constrictor is really in full seed here. It's much lusher than the same species out on away from the edge on the drier desert, and this is our potential along the edge of the silt field. There's a soak going out sideways, so we've got lots of nitrogen fixing species here. There's lots of dark rich mulch underneath this tree. There are lots of opportunities to plant this whole system into production. Organic matter. In fact, there's a stone in the top of the organic matter mulch. That's how strong this water was, but it was pacified and it accumulated organic matter here. For our potential to occupy those edge niches and benefit from the designed event. So here in the second check dam down, we've got algae, we've got more bees drinking and insects, but we've also got tadpoles from frogs. This is a permanent water source now at surface. In fact, there's a large toad sitting right here in the water, right in the middle of the desert. Here he is. How you going, mate? So, this could all be put to good use. This is definitely a potential. So the civil engineering has been put in 80 years ago. Now we need the biological follow-up to get things really on the move. There's a niche species here. As soon as we create a niche in nature, life moves in. There's bees here, there's a toad here feeding on the bees, there's tadpoles, there's algae, there's footprints of animals that have moved in here to have a drink. There's a whole mixture of life gathered around this water niche, which was created by a rock barrage dam here. This dam, this barrage dam, holding back this silt. The second dam down with this extra soakage and seepage, you can actually see the water running right there. There's actual water seeping out through this flow. This life facilitated event. We've facilitated a life-rich event which we can put to our use. We can extend this out so that the use of water is way beyond what nature could even facilitate, because we can have the intention of design for our benefit and the benefit of nature. It's by default that nature benefits from our good design intended patterns. This check dam wall here is the third one down, and we're over 2 meters, maybe even 3 meters in height above the valley floor. And there's the water just below the surface. So with all respect, I like to point out that I'm walking on water.
So yeah, that's the kind of stuff I think is really cool. Like where people talk about how, you know, you'll hear a lot of people talk about how, you know, we've screwed everything up. We're past the point. You know, it's too late. And you know, just looking at what he was showing there, no, we just have to utilize our abilities of what we know works. And you know what, there's water there in the desert. Yeah, he is in Arizona, but you know, if you look at that landscape, it doesn't look like it'd be easy to find water, but you know, he knew what he was doing, and you know, you see all those lush green trees, you know that there's water and such going there. So, you know, it's pretty amazing with proper ideas. And the reason I'm saying this is this also means that if you can grow trees, then you can also grow the food that you need to grow and that you want to eat. And you just figure out what grows in something that's edible for you in your landscape, and you'd be able to do pretty much the same thing.
So what we're looking at here is the mycelium, and basically you can introduce these into a landscape to help support the decomposition pathway, turning woody debris back into healthy living soil. And these can be thought of as the internet of the soil, and that there's this long extensive network which is transferring both nutrients and water in the soil, creating a healthier living landscape. You can see all that white stuff there is the mycelium. This strain is King Staphyria, which is really vigorous and will quickly populate a landscape and eat many different things, from newspaper and textbooks to large wood chunks.
But as that mycelium colonizes, grows on whatever mass it's growing on, whether it's wood chips or it's wood or pine needles or whatever it might be, it actually holds all of that material together, stabilizes it like a big sticky mat, and thus soil can't wash away.
Once you have a patch established somewhere in your landscape, you can then take a piece like this and establish other patches throughout your landscape, or as well share them with your neighbors. And so it's regenerative in that matter.
Around the concept of controlling erosion and healing eroded creeks and streams, we will often use a structure called a gabion. When a brush check dam or utilizing loose rock, which we call a rock check dam, sometimes the water is moving so quickly, then we'll use a gabion system. So a gabion is a metal cage, like a big basket, essentially. Now, what's important when you install a gabion is that you dig both sides of the gabion into the bank. And so we'll dig a trench out across, we'll place this big basket, and then we'll fill the basket up with rock.
As part of this animation, we can see a gabion wall on the left. The wall starts to build a deposit behind it. On the other side of it, the silt field is absolutely level. The water is pacified and soaks in. In between rains, this large area acts like a sponge, retaining the moisture over time, allowing the farmers to plant trees around its edges. The trees are known to be resistant to the local weather conditions. The farmers add more trees so they can grow vegetables in a fruit forest.
Food forests are these incredible integrated gardens that produce food, produce medicine, build soil, catch water, and provide habitat for a whole variety of wildlife. These are fully integrated in what we would call multi-stacked systems. So in a conventional sort of agriculture approach, you often have a monoculture orchard over here, you have your monoculture vegetable garden over there, and all of these things are very separated from each other. When you separate out these different agriculture systems, it requires a lot more maintenance, a lot more space, a lot more water. But if you look at a healthy forest, any kind of forest, not even a food forest, just a healthy forest somewhere on planet Earth, you find that there's particular relationships between plants, relationships between animals, relationships between bacteria and fungi and insects. And all of these relationships close waste loops. They provide energetic surplus. They support each other. It's these symbiotic relationships that really inspire a permaculture design approach to any system. A food forest is this sort of grand example of how we apply all the principles of permaculture and develop a whole variety of symbiotic relationships between plants, animals, sun, water, and humans in a way that's very beneficial. I feel that the difference between permaculture and your modern day environmental movements is that permaculture seats humans at the center of the restoration, at the center of the regeneration, and a food forest is a great example of that. If communities, if neighborhoods could harvest their food and provide for their basic sustenance through food forest systems, not only would they be healing the ecology around their communities in profound ways, and catching and infiltrating water and building soil and all these things, but we take ourselves out of the dependence of industrial agriculture systems.
So I do want to add one thing about the downfall that that fruit forests have, because I mean they sound amazing. If you listen to what he said, I mean they sound awesome. So the downfall to fruit forests is the time to harvest, and you can't really, and you have to use specialized equipment to access everything. Now you can grow a lot more food in a smaller area, but if you're trying to make industrial style, high food production, then right now we haven't mastered a proper food forest plan, a proper layout to be able to have high yield and still have all of the benefits of the fruit forest. That doesn't mean that we're not far off from that. I think that give it time and we'll be able to develop a high harvestable, a high profitable, high harvestable way to do fruit forests. It's just right now being that, this is a technology that we're rediscovering. This is something that we're, re-remembering as humans. We haven't figured out a way to, super profit from that.
Our approach to designing a plant community for a landscape garden or farm is founded in the goal of managing natural cycles. Some of those cycles are the nitrogen cycle and the mineral cycle. We believe if we can plant communities that can harvest nitrogen, then we reduce the dependency on bringing in outside resources in the form of compost or composted manure, etc. And that increases plant thrivability throughout the entire landscape. In addition, we find that many soils, especially in California, are devoid of minerals. Not devoid so much as many of the minerals have been leached out or washed away. There are many amazing plants that are beautiful, edible, medicinal, have wonderful flowers, that actually harvest minerals from deep down in the ground. And by allowing those plants to grow and their natural cycle of growth and death, we actually make accessible a variety of minerals to the entire landscape. Here we have a great dynamic accumulator plant called the daikon radish. Pulls up a lot of minerals from deep down in the soil. Also, this big, thick root has a ton of biomass, helps build soil very rapidly, breaks up compacted soils. See? Look at the size of that. This is how we build soil very, very rapidly.
There's your sunflowers, Mock.
What was
In
that white thing
permaculture,
he had?
abundance
Rhubarb?
is also made possible with compost teas.
I don't know.
Compost tea is a wonderful way that gardeners, farmers, landscapers
See, this
can
dude's doing
be
a lot more
empowered
than just
to build your own soil. See, healthy
filtering
soil
out his
is
gray water.
Oh yeah. This guy's setup is pretty awesome. I mean, it's this is similar to what I'd like to get to a particular point. I mean, he's got interns. He's got, he had a person that was
You can make some great teas on your farm for the plants, and right there at the plant source.
Oh yeah, I mean the thing is he's in California and he's talking about getting 20 inches of rain. He's had 20 inches of rain that year. I can have rainfalls here that gives you 20 inches of rain in a
Yeah,
night.
right.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Yeah, tonight it might rain. I might get 20 inches of rain tonight.
You might
Yeah,
have
he's trying to live somewhere that you shouldn't be trying to live. It doesn't rain enough to live where he's trying to live.
Well, and that's why they're recycling water, which is brilliant in a lot of those areas. And the cities, in a lot of ways, should have a long time ago. And they are prepping newer cities these days as they're rebuilding to a gray/sewer system. And they kind of already do that nowadays. Because the cities and certain city irrigations and stuff like that some cities are recycling gray water to keep diluting out the poopy water.
For instance, our water comes from a lake, and a lot of our gray water actually goes into the lake and gets reused. It's fucking nasty.
Your state actually has a lot of problems right now where all the poo in the rivers and non-septic system areas are running to the rivers. And
you also here, if you're not a local, you don't want to drink the water because it can make you deathly sick, especially right now.
Oh yeah, because of the flooding you've had over there. Yeah, the same thing here. If you there are particular places. I'm just gonna add this. There's particular places in this state that I don't drink the water. I always take bottled water with me just because of the coal ash. And even coal ash from coal mines have been closed for 5-10 years.
Well, yeah, right here now we have a black mold problem in the lake.
Okay.
The whole lake is fucking molded over.
But here's the other thing. This is the thing that is important to consideration. Again though, that water ran back in and used for your garden and used back into your soil. It'll fix a lot of that problem. Rerunning some of the water that's got the coal ash in it back into the ground. You'll naturally filter a lot of those out. There's a lot of things that we can do, and this guy's utilizing some of those with the plants and such to clean up water. Water's actually fairly easy to clean if you have the right soil, the right plants, and you do it the right way.
in the right
it's just
kind of
slow.
coal.
It's also one of those things is you can't rush it.
You can't rush it. Nope, no Russians here.
As we know, I'm worried about Mark.
Who the fuck are you?
Might be.
I love that.
Oh, and Mock, did you see that Dan said what kind of radish that was?
I did not. Sorry.
It's a daikon. I think I'm not probably not pronouncing that
Dakin
right.
radish.
A daikon
Oh
radish.
Lord. You get you some ketchup on that bad boy and you eat it raw. Oh God, it's a guilty pleasure right there. It's like
Is
on
that
the
one
deviled
people
egg
like to
things
deep
for
fry?
me.
I think some people deep fry that around here. I've only I've not grown them here just because I like to grow smaller radishes. I like fast eating, but I know people around here that grow them. And radishes are a really great thing to grow and to start off growing in your garden because they produce that green that goes on the top of radishes. You just cut that off, and that is a lot of biomass that you would just add back into your garden or add into your compost, and it does some awesome stuff.
Not to mention radishes, bro, taste great.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. They're one of the actual things that are worth growing because you can grow them and eat them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas most things aren't actually worth eating that you grow in your garden.
Well, potatoes.
Potatoes and radishes, maybe
Yeah.
carrots.
If you want to challenge yourself as a gardener, grow cabbage and lettuce because those
Or
are the
go
hard-
grow some marijuana.
I don't want to eat cabbage though, or lettuce really.
What? Cabbage is the wonder food. Cabbage cures all diseases.
Yeah.
You get some cabbage, bro, in a crock pot, set that bad boy for 6 hours, slow and steady.
Oh,
You get some
golf can
hog jaw
agree.
in it.
Golf
You're
can
good to
agree
go.
on this: cabbage, sausage, and onions.
I'd trust a
Oh,
cauliflower
Lord,
over a cabbage.
No, cauliflower is the same species, though. It's also a wonder food. It's a wonder. It
Oh,
cures.
man, I
all
love
diseases.
Cauliflower is like
dude.
the proper part of the cabbage. That's the part you're supposed to eat. You're not supposed to eat the leaves. You're supposed to eat the cauliflower.
No, cabbage is good shit.
Yeah, bro, I'm gonna
I
fight
can eat
you
it
over my
raw.
cabbage.
I used to hate cabbage, but
Yeah, I grow.
I-
I like to grow cabbage here, but I like to make I make sauerkraut. I like to make real sauerkraut. So I've got an old sauerkraut, and so I ferment it inside that.
Don't
so-
tell me that.
I like
I've
sauerkraut.
got a very
But one of my favorite things to add, and I'm just going to give you guys what I love to add to my sauerkraut, is I really, really like adding a little bit of horseradish, some fresh horseradish. Just chop that up, add that right into your sauerkraut.
you were drooling when you said that.
Yeah, over time, it'll really make your sauerkraut just spectacular.
Did you guys hear that? Doc was drooling when he
Yeah.
said horseradish. He was like,
Oh, I love
horseradish.
I love horseradish. I was lucky enough. Our friends gave us some horseradish, and I planted a couple spots in the yard, and now I've got nice big patches of horseradish throughout different parts of the yard. What I really like about horseradish is if you don't want that really intense horseradish taste, but you just want a little bit of horseradish, you can take the bottom part, get the leaf, get the big leaf that it makes, go down to the part that's closest to the root, cut that off, and you can just add that onto something that you're eating, like a sandwich, and you get that little bit of horseradish bite, but not the total bite. So if you just want a light horseradish bite, perfect. The leaves are really good for that.
See, I'm not a big fan of horseradish. Something about
love
it.
eating red onions.
It's not spicy, but it just the way it hits my mouth and taste buds is just like spice. Like
I gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, I know a lot of people that's not a big fan of that. So, but I also like wasabi. So, and wasabi
Oh
has
Lord,
similar
fresh
taste.
wasabi is where it's at.
But
I can't do wasabi.
I can't grow wasabi here because wasabi needs soil to never drop below, I think, 72 degrees, and so I would have I'd have to actually grow that inside. Yeah, wasabi likes really, really warm soil. It's like ginger and turmeric. They both like really warm soil.
Idea I had it a lot of people could do with older houses and say they need a roof. One of their cheapest ways to go about putting in a new roof is going and getting 1/2-inch Lexan or polycarbonate plastic, which is way stronger than plywood and all that other, and it's going to let in sunlight, and they could turn their attics into little greenhouses.
I've seen that on boathouses before.
Yeah, I saw it on a boathouse thing, and I was like, oh my god, we could do that in attics.
Oh, they're amazing.
So many houses sitting there with musty, nasty old attics that just need some sunlight and air.
That's a good idea. And actually, if someone was really worried, they could have something else so that you could put up during the winter time, so that if you have heavy snow and you want to protect it, like a temporary thing that you could put up. But no, it's a great idea.
Yeah, well, rain-X your roof and the snow won't stick. And those that don't want to use a chemical, silicone's not going to hurt none. Don't drink it, but I mean, it's spraying it on panels and that. I try to tell my friends that have solar panels, a few listen. I tell them rain-X them things like.
I'm actually saving up right now to get me 4 solar panels to put on the roof.
What, at your
Just
pad?
so, yeah.
If you want to go with solar stuff, let me know. I got some kits that I can show you that are not really cheap, but good.
Oh yeah, bro. If you want to send them over, I'll check them out. Yeah, I'm trying to get enough power to where I can run my computer and like a TV or something.
That's mostly going to be in your battery bank. In Kentucky, your area of Kentucky, you still get good sunlight.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure, but I mean,
the big thing that a lot of people, you need to be able to store that energy. You need to be able to store that energy somewhere.
Yeah.
From the sun
for days.
Yeah, and that's going to be
the expensive part.
That's going to be the part. That's going to be the part of figuring out how and a safe place to have all of those batteries, because we can talk about this.
Just talking about that.
Yeah, there's I know some places where you can get the kits, but I also know like you can get the kits from some of the links that Mock had, but you can also then get I have some links to some websites that does the math that tells you based on the panels, the panels that you're buying, and based on the inverters and such that you have, what kind of battery load you want, and if you're going to store 100% of the energy, how to do that, or how to hook it back up to the meter and sell your excess energy if you want to go that route. Sometimes in some regions, if you don't need to be off the grid, it actually is more cost effective to hook back up to the grid, sell your energy that you're making off the panels back to reduce your bill. Then you don't have to worry about the maintenance and the maintain of your batteries, and you're still getting cheap energy. You're very, very cheap, if not free energy in your house.
That's good.
I think it'll be very different for different people depending on their locale and their specific regulations that apply to where they live. State will be different state by state, and I think it's even different like county by county in the UK.
It's okay. Kentucky has some of the most relaxed dumping laws and regulations for nature around.
Yeah, Mark, the one nice thing about places like me and Golf live is we live in the forgotten rural parts, and if we want to give energy back to the electric companies like, oh yeah, we'll take that, thank you.
Yeah,
like,
they don't care.
Yeah.
I know it's easy. You can get a grant if you're in the UK to get a grid tied system where they'll pay you money to install a PV system that's never really going to work or make any money for anything in the long run. But if you want it to be not grid tied, your own separate thing that's not connected to the grid, they're not interested in giving you any money or helping you in any way at all.
And that's fine by me.
They want you tied in.
I got
They can want in one hand and shit in the other and see which one gets full first.
Well, with the way my week's going, I feel like someone's going to win a stinky situation.
Okay, we'll go back to the video.
Is 100% dependent upon
read
the
text
life in that
for
soil,
chat,
the
though.
bacteria, the fungi that decompose organic matter and help assimilate nutrients for plants. So aerated compost teas, popularized by Elaine Ingham, whose seminal work has really moved the movement forward in our ability to utilize compost teas. Aerated compost teas are systems where we utilize different material in, say, worm castings or highly fungal compost, and we put them in aerated water for a particular.
So we're gonna mention a little bit about the teas. So there's some pretty cool. There's some lots of aerated teas that you can make. I don't know if either one of you have ever, or any of you guys have ever made teas, but I have definitely made some different types of aerated teas to be able to really help with plants and such.
Yeah, and like something to
Kirby!
throw at people is eat more bananas, and even if you don't like bananas, just to keep adding them to your compost, because that natural potassium that stores in the peel is lovely. And peel your peel apart, how they're in fours. Like put one peel in over in this pile and that pile, or two in each pile or something, and because you don't have to add a lot, but eventually that potassium builds up, and oh my gosh, I've seen vegetables with an added.
Sorry about that. My
banana
cousin's
peels.
cat got in my room and proceeded to shit in the floor. Right in front of me.
It's giving you some compost. Just thought you needed some compost.
There was a lot of compost, bro.
Yep.
That's why he hollered.
Yep.
He's like, we're starting off grid right now.
Now, and oh, you guys want off grid?
Right
Well,
now.
I'll help you out. Some off grid right here for you, Golf. Let's see what kind of tea. Let's see what kind of tea he's going off and making.
Particular period of time, say 24 to 36 hours. We provide food for those microorganisms, and we are literally producing and growing high populations of beneficial microorganisms. When we grow these microorganisms out in the compost tea, then we can apply them to the landscapes, either through spraying on the leaves of plants or through soaking the soil around plants. And we essentially are inoculating, we are colonizing these landscapes with these beneficial microorganisms, and then they get to provide all the benefit that they've been known to provide.
This helps
Here's one of our
mushrooms,
aerated
too.
compost tea brewers. And we just fill this with water.
That's
and
a
then
pretty
we
intense tea brew
put
set he
either
has
a
set up there.
bacterial kind of compost, worm castings, or a fungal
This dude
compost.
takes it serious,
It has
don't
an
he?
air pump.
That's really
Actually
impressive.
vortexes this water around. We add
I bet you he
specific
smokes weed.
elements that allow the microorganisms
I bet
to
you he
feed
grows it.
inside this aerated
He's in California.
environment.
Get smoking
After
it
24 to
now.
36 hours, we have very high.
He's got a setup like this, you know, he's got a pot farm in the back somewhere.
But on the same
couple of 'em.
aspect, he is also talking about being the director and that he started this the skill thing, and so there's probably lots of grants that he's got, and these are probably things that he's got grant money for and funding to be able to do a lot of the.
That's a vortex chamber that you have in
Yep.
aquariums. It's a fish filter. It removes fish poo and collects it at the bottom.
You know what that is, though? That device he's using? He's
No.
modified it, but that's a salt hopper for a salt truck.
It does kind of look like that, yeah.
That's exactly what it is. I've put them on the back of trucks so many times. Those vortex
That's
style.
crazy.
They'll have a spinner in the middle so the salt can't get caught. Or a field spreader when they're dropping their granulants and stuff. It's
Yeah, it does
probably
sort
a
of look like a
field
field
spreader
spreader.
more than salt. But that's what it was a granulate spreader.
Just think of the ingenuity that went on here, though, to compare.
So I mean, that dude smokes weed, man. Look at his little patio set up back there. There's a blunt look on the table on the corner. I see it.
It's just sitting there
of
burning.
Organisms. You can put that out on the garden, around the plants, on the leaves.
He looks so much like my uncle. It's amazing.
This is a very beautiful place.
Is it possible to convert a conventional farm into an organic permaculture farm and make it money? Warren
That
Bush's
pig
farm
appeared to be
in
wild,
Southern California
but it wasn't.
seems to be
It was in a
great
pen.
example for that.
Right.
It has apples, persimmons,
That
and
was a happy
avocados.
pig, wasn't it?
There's also an
oh crap, I hit the wrong button. So what's happening? So what's happening with the pigs and that kind of stuff? This is becoming real popular in the permaculture world. Is people are integrating pigs into their orchards so that the pigs bump up next to the tree, and all of the bad apples and all of the bad pears fall down. The pigs eat it, and then when the people come in to harvest the apples, they just get the pigs out of the orchards, and the pigs have mowed everything down, and the pigs have eaten up all the rotten apples on the ground, so you're not really stepping on them, and you didn't have to worry about feeding the pig. So
and it promotes
Nice.
good insect for the chickens.
it promotes good insects.
I've heard of that as a West Country man. That's what you do with orchards. You send the pigs in first. Yeah, I've heard of that. Yeah. Pig farmers and orchard farmers are very good friends.
Yes. Yeah, and supposedly pigs eating lots of fruit. The meat has a lot better taste to it.
Oh yeah.
Sweeter taste.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just know that that's one of the other benefits is
Or
people
sugars, I guess.
love being able to find orchard fed pigs.
There you go, Goff. Become a pig farmer.
Example for
I don't know if
that.
I could do that.
It has apples, persimmons, and avocados. There's also an integration of animals. He has chickens and pigs, a production of high-quality pork meat. The manure coming from the chickens, pigs, and worm castings are all going back to the soil to create fertility.
So that pig is effectively wild then.
Oh yeah. Here in my state, we
The
have
production
wild boar.
surplus of the
They're
farm
actually,
can be
I can go
sold on
hunt
the
them in the middle of the
roadside
night with an
store, and some is
AR-15 if I wanted. Legally.
I would say, Mark, they're not effectively wild because they're still penned in.
Was it?
Yeah, so that orchard, what you're not seeing is the orchard still has a fence around it.
Okay.
And so they're temporary fences, but they're hot fences that they put up.
Right. It's a proper pig-proof fence all the way around.
Yeah, it's a proper pig. Now, most of the time, the pig's never going to challenge the fence, but it is there just in case.
Those weren't 600-pound pigs either. Those were like 100-pound pigs. That's a big difference, right?
Yes. And because you don't want the 600-pound pigs in the orchard. You want the medium pigs because the 600-pound pigs could actually push over the trees.
Yeah. You couldn't do that with Sylvia because she'd just destroy everything, right? She'd come back one day and you wouldn't have a farm anymore. She'd have flammed it.
She would have pushed over a tree. She would have decided that she wants an apple, and she would have tried to climb up the tree and then rode the tree down to the ground to get all the apples. Yeah.
And you want pigs you can manage that aren't going to charge you.
Well, I mean, if you've got pigs between 100 to 200 pounds, those are totally a lot more manageable than a 600-pound pig that realizes that can just push right through you, and you're not manhandling a 600-pound
You're
pig.
going to move if I charge you, and I'm going to run through your little fence over there. And bye-bye.
As soon as it weighs more than you, it's a different ball game.
As soon as they figure out they can challenge you, I mean, you have. It's like dogs. You have to establish a dominance again with the fence and electric.
It sounds crazy, but the best way to establish dominance with a pig, my neighbor taught me this, is you grab and you twist its ear.
Oh, I've heard of that with goats too. When the goat's trying to push on you, just grab his ear and pinch his ear, and he'll quit.
So that's actually why some people pierce the animal's ears, is so you can have something to grab.
You grab the tag.
Yeah, so it sounds, well, some people will pierce a pig's ear. Instead of piercing its nose, they'll pierce the ear, so you've got like a handhold of something you can grab and twist. So, and like Lisa's saying, the biology behind that is probably because the mom pig or something, or the piglings, the other piglets, as they're fighting over the milk and such, they're probably biting and twisting each other's ears. Because, that's an easy thing for them to grab, so they can.
Spot, really.
It pretty much, you're right. It is pretty much the only weak spot on a pig. Yeah.
They're probably like, ow, 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 okay. Kind of like when I was in trouble with Grandma.
The pit where you see the pigs will eventually be a squash garden.
He was just sitting in the middle.
Yeah. Do you know why it'll eventually? They said the spots where the pigs are will eventually be a squash garden. Do you know why it'll eventually be a squash garden? Because they fed the pigs squash. It's that simple.
Yeah, the seeds.
Yeah, they fed the pig squash. The squash will grow up in the squash will grow up in the water in the pig's poop, and you just might as well have a squash garden there.
You don't have any choice.
Yeah, you don't really have a choice. The pig decided that was your squash garden location.
And then move the pig and feed it tomatoes.
One of the ways this farm enriches its soil is by building the mulch. The chickens are helping by eating the insects and contributing to the soil biology. They convert what they've eaten into eggs and meat. Here, the pigs are eating a part of the walnut production.
There's something about the nut when you finish a pig with that changes the dynamic of the meat, and there's actually a big market for it. If we're trying to use as we're using our pigs to build our fertility here, we need good foraging species. So the more wilder species are better foragers, and so that's who these are. I just love her. She's about to give birth any day now.
So what they're saying with that is also the wilder species of pigs are also a lot smaller. And you don't get as much meat off of them, but like he was saying, you get a higher quality, a better tasting meat off of the smaller pigs. And they don't and they live about the same length of time. And you can actually have more pigs in one smaller area, so when you really break down the amount of meat that you're getting, it's probably breaking very close to even.
Amazing.
Well, it's food to meat ratio is what matters, isn't it? How much do you have to feed the pig for the meat that you get back?
Yep. And a lot of the wild pigs, they're now finding out are really, really good, especially if they can have a lot of if they can forage a lot, and that's why a lot of these smaller farms have went into the forage pigs.
Way less smell too.
Well, if you're raising pigs properly, your pigs aren't really going to smell because pigs are actually very, very clean animals.
Well, I mean, like how pig farms, they're confined always in a pen, and that's where all the poo is, and it's just wretched.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is like the problem with the pig farms where a pig doesn't get to move a whole lot. You're actually getting really inferior meat, because if the pig can choose what it wants to eat to at least a certain extent, you're gonna increase that pig knows what it needs, and so the meat that you're gonna be eating is from a pig that knew what proper things to try to keep itself as healthy as possible. And if we're going to be consuming animals and such, we want an animal that was trying to keep itself as healthy as possible.
Babies will come from this beautiful lady in the next 24 to 48 hours.
A lot of apples are fed to the pigs to break the cycle of the codling.
No, I bet you that gives the pigs a unique flavor.
Eating the bad apples, and the insects are then digested in the guts of the pigs, preventing the birth of the next generation of moth.
So for our long-term stability and resilience of this farm, we need redundancy in our water delivery systems. When we bought this farm, we had one pipe in from the municipality that was a highly chemified water, and it was literally killing the soil biology that was our hardest workers for our farm is our soil biology, and the water itself was killing it. And so we had to dig a well, and one of the things that this well we decided to do to have long-term stability in it is to have it be that the water is pumped by the sun. So we've put this whole system together where the photons from the sun are converted into the power that runs the pump, and the pump only runs during the day and pumps up to 3 10,000 gallon tanks at the very top of our property. hundreds of feet up, and then from the gravity from that, the water comes down and feeds all of our orchards. And
So
That's
I'm
good.
gonna-
I like that. That's good.
I like that, except for I think that I think the way he has the solar arrays and the fact that he's focusing so much on solar, I don't actually know if that would be the best use for that solar that he's talking about. But I really like the fact that he has the pumps at the top of the property.
It is. It is. Pumping water with solar is a good idea. Yes.
Okay.
I missed it. Well, it depends on your pump too. I mean, if you got a pump a lot, like solar is probably not going to be enough. But if
he did say that he only pumps it during the day, so that means that the solar he doesn't have any batteries. So
yeah, so that's a very efficient system. He doesn't need to use batteries. It's just DC motors. It's just the PVs generating DC power that then just turns a motor. That's it. That's all it needs to do.
I have a 3 amp hour sump pump, and one of my things I'm going to do when I go do my gold dredging is I'm going to take it with me and use it instead of gasoline, because I'm thinking on a good big battery, a full charge, I should be able to get as long as a tank. And then to charge that battery, if I use solar, that's free. It shouldn't be costing me anything.
So solar as a technology isn't bad. The problem is that to use it, you have to use batteries. If you can use solar in a way that means that you don't need to use batteries, then it's good.
Well, and like Hero to Zero said, the thing is having the tanks up top and then having the tanks then push the water down. The tanks really are the batteries. Like that is So yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now that that is really I can see how in my mind I was thinking there was batteries into the system when I initially said that, but now thinking back that there not being batteries in the system, that would be the best use of those solar panels, especially if those panels are sitting someplace that isn't really useful. Like
you're not messing about with inverters or converters or anything like that. Like normally you'd have to take the power that was coming from the solar panel, and you can't just put that straight into a battery. I mean, you can with some systems, but like generally you'd have some sort of controller that is regulating the power that's going from the PV to the battery. And then when you want to get the power from the battery, you then have to convert it to your 120 or 240 volts or whatever it is, because you're storing it at 12 volts or 24 volts or in DC. So you've got to go from DC to AC to convert it. But with the system that this guy's demonstrating here, it's just a PV panel, a photovoltaic panel that's just collecting the sun's energy, and that just goes straight into turning an electric motor that can then pump water, that's then being used as a battery. That's like a really, really good efficient battery.
When he's using the downhill of the gravity to help pull that water too.
But that system isn't going to break. All that's going to break is the PV over 20 years' time is just going to stop working eventually. Maybe
service your pumps, but it's probably not an expensive pump he's using, I bet, because it's not high power.
It's a very simple pump.
Well, and he said it was pumping out of the well, so it's probably, and especially if he's just using it to fill up, the those tanks that he had. So you were asking, somebody was I think, who was it that asked? Anyword was asking about can you graft pomegranate to apple. So you actually can graft just about everything to apple if you are skilled at what you are doing, but most of the time a pomegranate and an apple are not actually going to be as compatible as you would like. I'm trying to see what they're suggesting. I'm reading. I know somebody had asked this question in one of the farm groups that I'd belonged to at one point, and they gave something that I was surprised.
Oh yeah, just so you guys know, I'm going to be a plumber's apprentice starting next week.
That I was surprised that they suggested the pomegranates with. I want to say it was something like I want to say it was something like a cherry or something that they suggested worked better.
There we go. I dropped a link for people if they get interested in them solar pumps. It kind of makes me want to save up, buy a few of them, and just have them for when need.
Oh, okay. So something I'm reading that I didn't realize about pomegranates is it's actually better to just propagate them because they're a very easy tree to propagate. So what that means is all you need is just a little hormone. You just need a little bit of growth hormone that you stick at the end of them, and they actually sprout pretty easily. So it's a lot more likely to just keep growing a bunch of pomegranate trees than to focus on grafting upon a pomegranate to another type of tree. So I hope that kind of answers.
And this is just the second system, and we hope to have even a third system, which is a horizontal well that we'll put up above the key point in our system.
Thank you, Anyword.
The permaculture milieu generally believes that our societies should provide a very strong eco-literacy, not only about farming and water conservation, but also about cities and water management.
Thank you, Hero Zero.
Historically, in the 20th century, a particular mindset surfaced and focused on the preservation of buildings and roads. Water became a negative element to be drained away as quickly as possible. All that valuable rainwater is going in rivers and oceans. In many cities around the world, we went as far as integrating our storm systems with our sewage systems.
This has caused an entire series, a domino effect of ecological catastrophes and health issues for the communities that live in those areas. So on a macro level, we made a huge blunder. On a micro level, every new house that gets built, every new road that gets built, still has been utilizing this same misguided approach to drainage. And I say it's misguided not only because we integrated stormwater with sewer water, but because we have dehydrated the landscapes. There are really great solutions, and that is the plus side here, is that for every new development that we design and implement from here on, we have the opportunity to create what we may call bioswales, infiltration systems, catchment systems, adjacent and associated to our roadways and our building developments.
In California, a big question remains. How can we help the Central Valley?
We're not talking swales now, we're not talking rain gardens and terraces. Now we need to focus on the soil itself. We need to focus on how do we build topsoil in such a way where the soil itself becomes a large infiltration system, a large absorption system, and a large sponge. One solution is we can utilize grazing animals in such a way that we can build soil very, very rapidly. So if we can mimic the way grazing animals used to roam in the Central Valley, which is we would have herds of thousands of elk. And those elk, as they moved through those grassland prairies, they would literally aerate the soil. They would plant seeds. They would push organic matter into the soil in such a way where it could decompose and turn into very healthy topsoil. Again, healthy topsoil has an amazing capacity to hold, absorb water. You see, if we don't focus on soil as the number one harvest, the number one yield in our agricultural systems, then we will continually kill the soil and we will lose our farmlands at the alarming rate that we've lost them already. So
So I just want to mention one of the interesting things that's really cool about hooved animals is the way their hooves are. That's why pigs are so good for this kind of stuff. The way hooved animals are is they actually push down and they with the aeration, but what it also does is it micro compresses the soil in particular spots, and so that allows places for when the worms come up in different types of soil to really get in there and move around. It also then, if they step on seeds and such, it really compacts down the soil, and then through a little bit of erosion, that seed gets reburied once the land tries to level off a little bit more. And so yeah, adding hooved animals back into a lot of environments is just really, really good.
And the really big animals don't have the hoofed. So the elephant, the rhino, and the hippo don't have the hoofed.
No.
So that's why they are bad for the ground, I guess. Yet you can have a 1 ton bison or buffalo, and that's fine.
Yep.
Rotational grazing system is solution number 1. Solution number 2 is, in many agricultural systems, they are either hauling away or burning off all of the surplus biomass that these agricultural enterprises create. You grow 50 acres of squash, and when you harvest the squash, a lot of that biomass is not incorporated back into the soil in a way that allows for the appropriate decomposition. So recycling and incorporating biomass surplus material back into our agricultural systems is solution number 2. Solution number 3 is we need to get off of the synthetic petroleum-based chemical agriculture system, because when we are hooked on herbicides and pesticides and insecticides, we are damaging and killing the organisms in the soil. So it becomes a vicious cycle. We kill the organisms in the soil by utilizing these chemical products, and then the soil is devoid of life and is unable to decompose biomass, and so therefore the biomass can't get integrated in that material, and we have to burn it off or haul it away. Solution number 4, there is a plow called the keyline plow. This is a plow that was developed in Australia, and it is a very specially designed plow that when pulled across a broad acre enterprise, hundreds of acres, thousands of acres, it actually patterns the landscape in such a way that when a rainstorm comes, water can infiltrate into the ground, because this plow creates a series of subsurface furrows. It's very different than a ripper, which is a tool often used in agricultural enterprise to loosen soil. What a ripper does when it pulls through the soil is it actually takes subsoil and throws it onto the surface. That's called inversion. So when a keyline plow is pulled appropriately, it keeps the soil structure intact, keeps the soil profile intact, so we're not damaging soil in an adverse way, but it creates a small furrow under the ground that allows water to catch and infiltrate. Now, if we sow our agricultural crops into these furrows, those crops can root at a deeper depth and help build soil that way as well. So it's important to understand that there's no silver bullet to transitioning industrial ag into a water conserving, soil building agriculture enterprise. It's a variety of different techniques, a variety of different tools and implements that are going to get us there. And we need to have the will to do this. But the truth is, time is running out. Time is absolutely running out. The Central Valley is drying up like a prune. The ability for that landscape to provide
I disagree with what he's saying right
products is decreasing at an alarming rate. So I don't see any reason not to have the will and the investment to make these transitions happen.
But I do see it as a way to convince some people to get into it now instead of some old timers to say, well, I need to keep doing it the same way. I can see
the
how
old timers are so stubborn.
Yeah.
They don't like nothing new.
Time's not running out. We could turn all the deserts back into green pastures if we could be bothered. We could do it any
I'm in
time
the flat
we want.
bottom land here, kind of a panel
That's the
flat
point he's
in the
making.
Sonora Desert,
Yeah.
and it's not much fertility around. It's pretty sparse vegetation actually, and this here is an 80-year-old swale bank put in the Great Depression in the Roosevelt era. And it's a big one. As I walk over the top, then you see this obvious event starts to happen. The trees get green and big, and the vegetation gets really lush. And this is something you need to really understand. It's not every day that you see a scene like this, an oasis of lush verdant green created by nature, facilitated by good design. This is a very special scene. No maintenance, 80 years of fertility accumulated by water, designed to infiltrate into this arid landscape and create that scene. Outside, there's a hot, dry, dusty desert. In here, you couldn't believe you're in a desert. This is all green, lush and fertile and beautifully shaded and cool.
So that just shows you some of the really cool things that we can do. Minus that little bit of like trying to push things forward at the end. That I would say it was a very positive, uplifting video, just showing you, what somebody was doing out in California, and then with Lawton there talking about how he re-greenifies the deserts and such like that. And I mention this again because regardless of where you live, even if you live in, an urban, what you would feel an urban wasteland, just because you're surrounded by asphalt and a bunch of other stuff, that empty lot down the road, or, buying a cheap lot in the city, you can actually still grow a lot of stuff and re-greenify and, still grow things even in an urban setting. Like we have the technology today to be able to grow food just about everywhere. So each area is going to be uniquely different based on its stresses and what it's going to need to do. But there really is pretty much something we can do everywhere. So if anybody that would like a copy of this video or something like that, let me know. It'll be on the Discord. I can put a link to it on the Discord so you guys can watch it if anybody wants to rewatch this video. So it's this is one of the videos. This is one of the videos that I use, or that I will be using for my interns and for projects and such we'll be doing here in West Virginia, just to show what they can do in California. If they can do stuff like that in California, just imagine what we can do in an area that gets quite a bit more rain, and where pretty much I can grow things really, really quickly. I could plow up my entire field and turn it into what looks like a dust bowl, and in a year and a half it would be lush again. It wouldn't be grass anymore, but it would just be lush with a bunch of plants. That's just how awesome things do here.
Yeah. Well,
You could only do that so many times, though.
Yeah.
If you kept ploughing it up, then over time, it would eventually come back, but it would take a long time if you kept ploughing it up a lot of times first.
Nah. I don't mean to say that here, but I've seen how fast the coal fields have recovered. And you're talking like they left coal on the surface. And we have such a like the Appalachia has such a spectacular ecosystem here. Where I live is the third most in the world, the third most diversity in plants in the world. So it's the rainforest. I can't remember what the second thing is, and then it's the There's a space. There's the part of Appalachia, and then there's a part of China that have the next diversity. And it's just there's just so many pioneer species that will pretty much come in and fix everything, and like can just pretty much fix anything that we can screw up. It's
See, I would have expected that because you were so high up, then stuff didn't grow that well, but that's obviously not the case.
Yeah, well, I think I'm right at that sweet spot. Yes, it does take longer for some trees to come in, but we have a lot of small shrubs that fill that void. Like we have rhododendron, we have and rhododendrons are evergreens with big leaves that can pretty much they can stick into the side of the mountain and figure out how to grow into the side of the mountain. We have a bunch of smaller trees that grow really fast but only live like 20 years, and they grow really really quickly. And then I think a lot of it has to do with because of the amount of rain and snow we have here. There's so much moisture always here that the plants just really like that moisture, and so some of them just really figure out ways to make it happen. I mean, I can just imagine if we still kept this kind of moisture and I was in a tropical zone, like what it would look like, what it would look like here. Yeah, Appalachia, the Appalachian region is a very is very very cool with the amount of plants and animals and how fast things happen here. It's one of the more amazing things. I really don't understand. I really don't understand when more people want to do off-grid living and they want to get out there, and they can't buy tropical land. Why more people aren't actually moving to Appalachia to do this kind of stuff, because we really have most everything that you need. I think it's because people are still so reliant on civilization. They still want to be close to the grocery store. They want to have access to the electric grid. They want to have access to the internet. I think that is probably the reason, and they just don't realize what is actually here.
Well, and some people still think that it's the poverty area.
The answer to your question, Doc, what would the Appalachians be like if they were tropical, is, well, the Andes in Chile and Peru.
Okay, yeah, no, you're probably right. Yeah, I've not thought about that. Yeah, you're probably
Because
exactly right on.
Because that is the same mountain range, right?
Mm-hmm.
It literally is the same mountain, right? It's just...
Well, so what's interesting is, so where I live in Appalachia, I live. Oh wait, I don't. I'd have to look again. I either am right on the line or I'm just on the North America side, but not very far away from me is the spot that used to be attached to Europe, and so like the Scottish Highlands and that kind of stuff when they used to be attached to the Appalachian Range.
Right. Okay.
So that's why a lot of those plants over there will grow just fine here, and why we share a lot of similar soils, even though it's been, a very long time since they were connected. It's also probably why when the Europeans came over to the Appalachians, a lot of them had no problem coming into the mountains and just almost like it was, a slightly warmer version of home. Like my property in the 40s and 50s was mostly a sheep farm.
Okay.
Now it just pretty much has cows and hay, and then my little projects on there. But just because sheep fell out of favor for people to have, even though sheep are probably one of the better animals for us to be raising. Just because, I mean, they're spectacular grazers, because they actually don't hurt the plants, they don't hurt the grass, they graze very cleanly. They produce you wool, they produce you milk, and at any age of a sheep, you can eat. A lot of people think, they just think about eating young sheep, but what is it, mutton? Yeah, mutton, or what you put in a shepherd's pie is really just old sheep just before they're ready to die. Like when they're on their last legs, you harvest them and you make mutton, and you put it
Oh,
in shepherd.
mutton. Mutton is any sheep that's older than 6 months, isn't it?
Yeah, any
And
sheep that's older than 6 months. Yeah, that's the current term, but how it used to, its historic term was old sheep.
Hmm.
Because yeah, I mean most animals that we eat today, like it's including beef, pork, things of that sort, is under 6 months. We usually eat everything at about 6 months old.
That's lamb. You get lamb and mutton.
Yep.
Depending on if it's older than 6 months or not. But like you say, you can eat a 10-year-old sheep. It might just be a bit chewy.
Yep, but from my understanding, unlike some of the other animals that like pork as it's aged, and even beef as it ages, the quality and it goes down. That doesn't seem to happen as drastically with sheep as it does with other animals.
It definitely does with pig, but does it so much with cows?
Yeah, it's a cow after like 4 or 5 years old, because it's been walking around a lot and doing stuff. Its quality, its meat quality goes down. It's probably not as bad. It's probably not as bad nowadays as it used to be because we have better control of the diets and such like that. But
because the best beef that you can get, right, is probably like the bull that's just been killed in the bullfight in Spain, right? And that's like some big strong bull that's 10 years old, maybe.
No,
That's big gnarly, great big. No,
Nah,
they're young. Those bulls, are they?
Yeah.
Because they're like the prize cuts. That's the most expensive beef that I can think of. That like if you want to buy that cut, the cut that's been killed of that bull, and it's really tasty. So, not that I approve of that sort of thing, obviously.
I actually think that the most expensive beef right now is in the is that Japanese Kobe or something of that sort. So it's the way the animal's treated and such like that. So okay, yes. So most bulls in a bullfight are a year to 2 years old.
Okay. I use the young bulls.
Oh yeah. Wagyu. You know what? I think Wagyu is probably the most expensive. I forgot about that as a beef. I do think that might be one of the more expensive beefs out there. I think with the bullfight beef, I think a lot of that just has to do with marketing. People want to eat that bull that was there, because personally I would think that with that bull and all the stress and all the hormones and such it's going through, I think that would probably taint the taste of the meat. But maybe that's something that people are looking for.
There is that the cow in Jersey. Not a Jersey cow, but it's a type of cow in Jersey that they finish those with champagne. For the last like few months of their, they just feed them champagne like constantly, just like by the bottle, hold champagne bottles up to the cow's mouth, and the cow drinks it by the bottle. Like seriously, they really do that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've heard about using different types of alcohol to finish certain cows. I think there's something that you can do that with veal as well to enhance the taste of veal. Is keep veal on as much of a liquid diet, so after it leaves the milk, you switch it over to like kind of almost like a beer, and you finish it on something like that. The problem with veal, my big problem with veal is that veal is probably the closest to animal torturing that we do to create food for animals, because You pretty
I
much.
don't know. It's really not any different than what we do with battery farming with chickens. It's just
No, you're
that
right. You're right.
it's just that lambs are cute and chickens aren't. It's no different, really.
Chickens are
You're
cute. What are you talking about?
You're probably
They're not.
no. I can see what you're saying. Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, that's a fair. And you know what? Maybe with the way we've genetically modified, the way we've genetically enhanced the chickens, like
Yeah, they can't even
my
stand up. You know,
my
like,
na-
they just.
my neighbor bought the year before he died, he bought some of the fast growing chickens because he wanted them, and so he was in the hospital during the time that they were maturing, so I had to go over and take care of them. Oh, and it was horrible. Like they couldn't walk. They were growing so quick and they're getting so fat and big, that it was just. I mean, it was definitely one of the few times that butchering them, you were doing it out of you were being humane to butcher those chickens, because they were just their life. They grew so fast and their life was just horrible. And chickens, there's just animals, you can definitely tell they weren't meant to grow that fast, and it was just something horrible. And ever since then I've told people that I know that wanted to raise chickens, like, don't ever buy the fast growing ones. Buy the medium growing ones. I've seen people buy those. Just don't grow the fast growing ones. That's just, I don't know, they broke. That's humans breaking the animal thing, because those animals never get a chance to even know what it's like. So
Veal farming just seems more sinister somehow. You know,
that's
it-
probably
it's
what it is about veal farming, is it probably seems more sinister. Yeah.
because like a veal chicken's probably got more space. A veal calf's probably got more space than an average chicken.
hmm
I don't know if that's true, but it might be.
Well, I mean, I know here in the United States, to be able to call free range chickens, it just has to have an access door to an outside area, and there is no size that outside area says it has to be. So that outside area could be a square by square outside of the barn, like a 1 foot by 1 foot outside the barn, and that can mean that technically falls into the stature that's a free range chicken. It's just, they argue that it's choosing not to go outside. That's usually why I tell people, like, if you're gonna spend any of that money on free range, cage free. By the way, guys, don't ever spend money on the eggs that say they're vegetarian eggs, because they're lying to you, because chickens will eat anything that they can find. And so, like, if they're saying they're vegetarian eggs, like, that's just an absolute scam. My favorite, though, my absolute favorite, and me and Lisa point this out every time we see him at the thing, you will see on the package that some of the eggs will say cage-free eggs. And we established that they're not lying, because those eggs were probably never in a cage. Because it does literally just say, it doesn't say cage-free chickens, it just says cage-free eggs.
There probably are some vegans out there that are keeping chickens in a way that mean that the chickens don't ever eat anything meat-based, and they're just torturing those chickens. They've got just don't allow them. They let them into the garden, but there's no worms in the garden. Right? They've checked. That's probably going on.
So here's something. I've had some conversations with people, and this is to anybody out there that's a vegan. If you're going to homestead and you're a vegan, the proper thing for you to do is to have chicken, goats, and any livestock that you possibly can. And the reason is you are doing less harm to the animals in the environment by you raising the animals, because what you're doing is you're actually balancing out your garden better. So you're doing less damage to the wild animals that get killed by, all of the other things out there than you would by focusing on organic or things, that kind of stuff. So, like, a lot of people don't realize, a lot of people say, oh, I'm vegan and I only buy organic food. Well, that's great, but how many mice did that tractor kill to plow up that field and to harvest that field? That's the thing. And when you're doing hundreds of acres, or how many birds, how many snakes, things of that sort, where if you're integrating the chickens, you're integrating the rabbits into your farm, and they're adding the fertilizer and they're adding all that kind of stuff. That means that's less fertilizer and such you have to buy, which means during the process of bagging and collecting those fertilizer, things like rats are going to die, other stuff are going to die. So you simply having the animals and integrating onto the farm means you are actually helping animals more by having them work for you. And then it's your responsibility to make sure you're taking care of them to whatever quality that you think that animal should be taken care of. But by having them and you not having to buy as much, you are actually living to your true value of making sure that animals are living the best quality life and less are being harmed. So
what do you need to do with Sylvia to process her fertilizer into a way that it can be used as fertilizer?
So technically, after Sylvia's not here anymore, the proper thing would be, and I don't know if I'll be able to do this, but the proper thing would be is to cut her up and take her to the top of the mountain and let animals eat on her. And
oh no, I was meaning more, what comes out the back end on a daily basis rather than that. But I'm obviously interested to hear what you're saying anyway. But
so that would be the optimum, and then use her blood, especially hers, because pig blood is spectacular for bone meal. For blood meal, using her blood for the blood meal, things of that sort. Now, if you're talking about while she's alive and as she's working, the best thing that we should be doing is I should be paddock rotating her around, and wherever her bathroom is, because pigs have a unique bathroom. They only now they might have they might have a couple in the lot, but they don't just shit everywhere. They specifically shit in particular areas. What I should be doing, and we did do it a couple years prior, is I should be paddock rotating her, and then wherever her bathroom is, I should be planting a bunch of stuff onto that bathroom. Well, really what I should do is after I rotate her out there, let the chickens and ducks get in there to eat all the worms and to break up the poop so it's more flat, and then plant some stuff on top of that, and then let her go in and she's already naturally made some swells. There's a lot of little seasonal ponds throughout where she lives now, so there's lots of places that hold and grass water. She's far better at pond making than I am, because she gets down there with her nose and then her feet, and then she lays, and you got 600 pounds rolling around in clay, then compacting it down. She can make things hold water extremely well. And yeah, and like Lisa said, it only takes her she puts her nose in the ground and she can go and till out something really fast. And it's 5 seconds, and you're just wow, that was amazing how fast you just dug up that hole. So, yeah, if you could just control it a little bit better. The lesson I've learned is in the future when I have a small pig, and one of the 100-pound pigs, I will have it better trained so that I can utilize its skills to be able to do more. Sylvia's just a little too big for me to be able to handle around to get her to do what I want her to do.
Maybe you just need to gain some weight, Doc.
Maybe I just need to gain some weight. Yeah. I don't know, man. Still, I've seen her when she got mad. I seen her when she got mad at the four-wheeler, and she almost flipped the four-wheeler over with her nose. She reached under the four-wheeler and lifted it up. I bet that she could flip over a Volkswagen Bug if she wanted. Sylvia could get under the back of it and lift up and flip a Volkswagen Bug. So I bet a strong pig could totally do that. And I think about that every time I watch her do something crazy like that, and I still go back and think about at one particular point, the United States thought it would be a good idea to raise hippos. Yeah, just that kind of stuff just makes me laugh. But another thing I just want to remind everyone, again, it doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter, if you're in the city, if you're in the suburbs or anything like that. There's a place that you can grow food. If you can't grow food, there's a CSA, there's a farmer's market, there's some people that you can join and get control of your food, know where your food's coming from, and all that kind of stuff. And if you're tired of living in the city and you want to get out and you want to do something else, the sooner the better. Like if you're seriously thinking that you don't want to live in the city anymore and you don't want to be a city person and you just want to get out there, you need to get out there because, if you're like me and even me who's going to live to 122, that means that I only have 80 more harvests. If I'm gonna live to be 122, that means I can only harvest my field 80 more times. So, I mean, that's just something to think about. That means, or let's just say that you're older and you're not gonna, you're gonna live to the typical year. That means that you're only gonna be able to get apples off of your tree that many more times. And yeah, and like Lisa pointed out, yeah, I'm only saying, I'm replacing harvest with the word years, but when you think about it as in, having to put the work in to get that tree in the ground and to harvest that food out of it, that is something really interesting to think about. So, and I say that because, everything takes a little bit of time. You're going to probably screw up one or two of those harvests, and you're going to have a bad yield, or weather's going to get in your way, and a bunch of crazy stuff's going to happen. So, and actually, surprisingly, me and Mock were doing some looking at property. We happen to be looking at property near me, but I was surprised that there's still affordable property around.
Yeah, surprisingly.
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, some of it wasn't 100% the best, but what were we finding? Right around $1,000 an acre for some of the stuff, and some of it wasn't even that high.
Yeah, and they're willing to work with people on a land contract.
Yeah, we found people doing land contract. I mean, me and Mock found an
like
awesome
realtor companies doing land contracts. But the downfall on a lot of them, which was kind of annoying, is you don't get mineral rights on a lot of land in West Virginia. It's kind of weird.
That's the one problem in West Virginia is you don't get mineral rights with a lot of land, and part of that has to do with. Now I will tell you, Mock, and I'll tell you this to everyone else. Sometimes that's not as scary as it sounds. Part of the reason you don't get mineral rights is because they don't know who owns them, and they might not ever be able to find out who owns them. And so, like, the idea is no one owns the mineral rights. They're just not ownable.
What I gathered back in the day, a lot of rich people went through and bought up, like, can I buy your mineral rights?
Yep.
And giving people well, I'm not getting your land. We just want a mine under it, blah, blah, blah. And here's X amount of money. And people that were broke were like, sure. It happened to my family.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, oh, yeah, we'll get X amount of money from them mining when they mine. And then the miners strip it and leave and didn't give them a penny.
So here's the thing I will tell you about mineral rights. If someone's gonna mine under your property and you're using the surface of the property to generate a revenue or to make or is your way of living, whatever they do underneath cannot affect anything on the soil and cannot make it so that you can't keep doing what you're doing. Hence the reason why I started planting all of those pine trees back in the day. Hence the reason why I make sure I say that most of my property is a hayfield, because if for some reason, and I think we own the mineral rights, but if something ever happens and someone would come in and try to take the mineral rights or try something like that, and they would hurt anything on the surface, I then would have something to go back at them against and be able to stop them from being able to do things. So if you do happen to buy property without mineral rights, there are things that you can do. And the other cool thing that's happening now is mineral rights does not include water rights. So if you've got water on your property, you defaultly own those water rights. And so if what they're doing damages your water, they can't do what they're doing to run the risk of damaging your water.
Right. Even though they probably will anyways. But yeah, the right to feed, the right to.
Well, a lot of the fracking companies are losing major lawsuits in this in this state right now because of the mineral rights and destroying people's water sources. And because the coal companies didn't want the gas companies to come anywhere close to them, the coal companies were actually fighting with the landowners. Because what was happening here is the coal companies were doing stuff, and then the natural gas people were coming through, and the national gas company were actually puncturing coal mines, and then the natural gas was going into the coal mine, and now you have to completely forever abandon that coal mine because it's not safe to mine in it anymore. And so the coal companies were losing money because of stuff the natural gas companies were doing. So the coal companies and the natural gas companies started going to war in particular parts of this country. And then when the coal companies found out about the natural gas and the water, they then got on that particular side, because if a coal company damages the water that's on your surface, they don't get in trouble. But if the coal company damages the water that's underground, then they get in trouble. So, they could argue a lot of times, and you hear it a lot, that they argued a lot of times that the reason why that water had coal in it wasn't because of anything that happened underground. It was because of what happened on the surface, and because it happened on the surface, they're not responsible, which is just weird, but that was the game that they played. So yeah, it's a lot of stuff. That's the other important thing about wherever you choose to move to if you're going to go rural, is that you need to understand the culture, and you need to understand the strangeness the unique strangeness that's going to be in whichever area you choose to go to, because every area is going to have their weird quirk. You're going to have crazy people. You're going to have really cool people. Like here, I have a tough time here because I shouldn't say no one. Very few people think the idea of buying food made by someone in West Virginia is cool. Like, well, why would I buy eggs from someone local when I can just buy them at Walmart? Now that's slowly going away. So that's slowly fading away, and less people are thinking like that. But still, a lot of old timers, that's how they think. And what's crazy is even if the price is very similar to the same, they will still make comments like that. Walmart wants to make sure that they have the best quality food because they want me to keep coming back. I don't know anything about, the local farmer here. So it's just interesting. Well, does anybody else out there think of anything else that we should talk about when it comes to food, when it comes to water, when it comes to, greenifying the desert, when it comes to anything that we think that is important?
Not really. I'm running out of steam myself, so.
Okay.
What was your question, Doc?
I was just seeing if there's anything else that you thought that we should mention, that you should talk about, things of that sort. Oh, I did figure stuff out, guys. And me and Mock are gonna work a little bit more on trying to get all of the stuff on his website set up for a suggested links of stuff that we talk about to buy. But I did learn that you can use my nonprofit, the Smile part of Amazon, and Mock's affiliate link. So if you if some of the stuff that we mentioned, if you're going to ultimately buy it from Amazon and you want to buy it from you're going to buy it anyways, you can be helping Mock and me at the same time, and it's not going to cost you any extra money.
And what we're going to list will be like good products and help you save money,
and products that we know. Yeah, products that we understand is good. Stuff that we either have tried ourselves or stuff that we've read reviews of and that somebody has probably had and done stuff with. So that's
a lot of crap.
Yeah. So that's stuff that we're gonna link to and such like that. So just something it took me a while to figure out if we could actually do both, and it does. And the other cool thing is that's taken double the amount of money from Amazon. So And any little bit we can take from the corporate beast, especially since we're kind of reliant on them right now, it's a good thing.
Well, I mean, it as much as they suck, I mean, they still help find and get and bring it right to your door.
They do. They make life easier, and because of them, it will help innovate smaller businesses to make some awesome stuff. Like it a few years from now, we will have other choice. We'll be able to buy from local because of how Amazon has been able to innovate things and stuff like that. So that will naturally trickle down to the small businesses, and we'll be able to get stuff from the small businesses and have it delivered right to your house and things of that sort. So that will happen in the future.
And Amazon kicked 50,000 Chinese sellers off their site. So.
And did you see that? And did you see? And I'm not trying to shill for Amazon at all, but did you
No,
see that
me neither.
Amazon also said now if they will pay for a bachelor's degree in college. They'll pay for your full 4 years of college, and it's not even a very crazy commitment that you have to do with Amazon to get that. It's like I think you have to work. I think you have to work for them full time for 5 years.
And something, if someone wants to learn a good degree and make a lot of money, is their IT department that works their AWS servers. That's like a whole like system on its own, and once you learn it, I mean, you get paid the top dollar inside Amazon to run their servers.
Oh yeah, I'm totally. I mean, I already practice Hero Zero. What you're talking about is the gray economy. Yeah, no, I already practice. I already practice a lot of stuff with the gray economy, but I think that especially to be able to, if let's just say something crazy does happen in the future, and let's say that that is a possibility that we do go to a hot war. I do think that having some people that's willing to play both sides, that's willing to get access to all that information so that we can keep extending forward and do stuff forward. I think those people, and I have at the particular moment, I have no problem playing that middle role to make sure that we can keep succeeding and that we can keep thriving, because there will be some people that won't be able to access stuff. So like another. Go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say there on my site that people can ponder on are different self-defense hunting weapons. So that way, if you got to defend yourself and get food and stuff, it's slingshots, or Mark can vouch on it. There's some really good ones out there.
So and the other thing about the the gray economy, that's what instead of calling it the counter economy, I just call it the gray economy, because you're not actually breaking the law. You're just not necessarily participating in the same way that they want you to participate. What's interesting about I think a lot of small businesses are going to start participating in the gray economy. They're going to start. I think you're going to start seeing a lot more businesses figure out ways to legally save money. In all the different tricks that the large corporations currently know, that now that knowledge is being trickled down to the smaller businesses and the smaller corporations and such like that. And if you want to mention about what happened today with that push that the president did with the companies over 100 employees, I think initially it's going to be a little chaotic, but in the long haul, and the long haul might even be just a year or two down the road, in the long haul, this is actually going to be this should be very, very good for everything. Initially, it's going to suck. I'm just, in the short haul, things are going to be tough in particular regions because there's just people that don't know how yet to fill those voids. But once we can teach people how to start businesses, once we can teach people, like Mark had mentioned when we talked about how McDonald's is not going to be able to hire people, and Mark said, well, yeah, people are going to get a food truck, and Mark was 100% correct on that. But the one thing we will need to do is we will need there is people that know how to start businesses, people that know how to do accounting, people that know how to do that. It will be our responsibilities to make sure that we help these people start their food truck and how to, balance their budget of their food truck and to be responsible and such like that. So we'll have a lot more civic responsibility, but if we do step up the civic responsibility, it will ultimately mean that in the few years down the road, mom and pop shops of everything will be able to outcompete even the Walmarts.
We just need to be willing to eat the burger from the guy on that's just set his store up by the side of the road rather than McDonald's.
And that's gonna have a lot to do with your trust and getting to know community again and making sure that the people that are doing what they say, it's just going back to the farmers market. It's really no different than what our ancestors did. I mean, look, like, our grandparents, our great grandparents used to have milk and food and such delivered to their house, and that's what all the grocery stores and stuff are doing now again. We're just back. History doesn't repeat itself; it just rhymes. And so we just found the way it rhymed this time, and so it's just going to keep rhyming, and it's just going to get more interesting. And certain aspects of life are going to feel like they're getting really bad, and they're going to get really bad. They're going to feel that way because for a lot of us, most of us don't really like change. But when we really step back and we look, we're going to see that things are going to be better. And that there's, while we take a few steps back and those few steps back are going to feel like they suck, the big step forward that we're going to actually be taking because of that is going to be pretty amazing. So, that's the main reason that's the main reason why you're seeing crypto go across the bottom of the screen. Some of those crypto that you see are going to bite you in the ass, and it's going to hurt. But one of those cryptos that you see is going to be something that's going to help change the world in a positive way. They're not all owned by the bad people. Some of them are honest, real projects that are going to do things. And plus the fact that we've got so many choices now, the more choices we have, the more likely we have now to not let the fractional reserve banking, to not let the big people take over. So yeah, and the gray economy is the gray economy is for me as what I see as the wave of the future here. So I mean, like, technically here we're on DLive. We're kind of playing in the gray economy right now because, there is the potential of you guys, donating lemons. Some of them costed you guys money. Some of them you got paid in lemons for watching people's streams. The folks that get lemons from when people open chests and such. So you actually did work for those. So you didn't actually get them for free. You got rewarded for watching people's channels and for being present when the thing was open. So, and you're giving those back to somebody else. It's not, if that person knows how to convert those lemons the proper way, then they're not really paying anything on those. So yeah, it's together as we build community, and sometimes building community is just going to be cyber communities. It's just going to be conversations like this. It's going to be people joining Discords. It's going to be people joining Telegrams. It's going to be people just getting in text rings. Going back to the day where everybody just joins a group and we share text messages back and forth. I mean, it could get to that particular point. It could get to the point where we go back to writing letters, physical letters that we mail back and forth to each other. That's or CB radios, or me and Mock talk about ham radios. Whatever it's going to be, we're going to build communities, and we're just going to and if enough of us open source our knowledge base that we have, and we share with what we're good at doing when we can share, then we're all going to be able to thrive. And the scariest thing that the New World Order has is the fact that they can't stop us from sharing information.
No, and like one of the things me and you talked about, and the things I've been learning on and off over the past year, Nez, so we could be able to sustain our own internet for our own community if we had to. If the grid went down and we had a community of people, well, just run a cord. We'll hook you up.
And by the way, guys, I have a channel set up. If you guys have never used this app, let me send it in here. I have a channel set up. And I'll reset everything up and make sure it works well. But there's an app called Zello, Zello. It's a walkie-talkie app. It's a voice over IP. If anybody's ever interested in me reestablishing that, it's another form of communication. It's just another interesting form of communication that exists out there. Just that I don't think enough people utilize properly. So,
and I have some radios on my site they work from two-way to ham to tri-band, and that way, if you got to reach long ranges in an emergency, you can.
I mean, and the other thing is like let's even just pause here for a second and not even go with the fact is let's just say that nothing gets any worse than it is right now. Let's say that this is the pinnacle of how bad it's going to get. That still doesn't mean that we shouldn't be building community and we shouldn't be pushing forward and trying to do awesome things. So even if nothing gets any worse than what than it is right now, if we start building community and we start doing things together and start achieving awesome stuff, that just means that we're that much ahead and doing even more cool stuff. So yeah, Hero Zero, the last couple days, a lot of crypto decided to dip down. I think it was done on purpose. So those of us out here that are smart enough to know that we can get in there and buy everything at a discounted price, we'll be able to jump in and be able to do that. Hey man, thanks for the follow.
How did Monero react when everything else crashed?
Mark, that's what I thought was weird. I could not find a single coin that did not crash. The whole entire thing went almost at the same time.
It's all tied to Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think right now too much
all crypto faith is based on faith in Bitcoin. So when Bitcoin drops, faith in all other cryptos drops.
Now, okay, so the coins that dropped the least percentage-wise was Monero, Litecoin, and something else. It didn't have as deep, and it rebounded quicker.
Monero is the closest thing to gold in a crypto at the moment.
Yes, Monero is the closest thing to gold right now. So, at least until somebody does something else. So,
it's the closest thing to money that you can get as a normie.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's probably a really good way to put it. Yeah, without being in the fractional reserve. So,
you'd rather have actual gold, but you can't really use that to buy stuff like with your friends online or trade it for some dude that wants to buy something with. Whereas if you've got it in a crypto, you can. But you want gold and Monero is what you want.
And Hero Zero's right. A lot of it is people just don't understand it yet, and they hear the scary news. And so people are still very, very unemotional. They're still willing to ride the roller coaster. That's the downfall to this cha-ching that everybody feels. Everybody's so focused on Lambos and going to the moon, where I think once you've been in crypto as long as I have, you really are looking for that volatility line. You're trying to find that level spot, and you're trying to say, okay, where is it going to level out, and then you ride the dips. So I personally don't play the game like most of the people on here. So like I already have my exit strategy for all of my Bitcoins. Like I know where I'm going to leave Bitcoin when it reaches a particular point, just because I know it's also then going to drop down past that. And so I'm just going to buy back in when it gets at a discounted price. And the other thing is if it doesn't, let's just say I'm wrong, and let's just say it makes to $100,000, and I sell at $100,000, and then it doesn't ever go below $100,000. That means I'll just find an altcoin and I'll just play the game with altcoin until I make enough money to buy back in to Bitcoin. Either way, I'm still going to I'm going to repeat this again like I've repeated many, many times. Have an exit strategy for whatever coins you're currently holding and know what you're going to be doing with that money, because what's the point of having all of these coins and having this money if you're not actually doing something with it? It's not the one that dies with the most coins win. It's what I regularly use my crypto for. So a lot of you that's followed me long enough knows that most of everything here on the farm, so all of my bees were paid with crypto money. So with crypto winnings that I've got from trading and things of that sort, most everything that happens on my farm is paid for with what I've made from crypto and such like that. And my nonprofit, most of the stuff that I do with my nonprofit and the money and the programs and such I'm offered, a lot of it has to do with the crypto. And my exit strategy, the reason why at $100,000 I have, I'm going to sell the small amount of Bitcoin that I have, is because if it reaches that particular point, then I honestly can start thinking about buying pieces of land in the pretty decent chunks of land in the particular area. And while as much as I love crypto, I like land more because it's something I have and something that I can work my hands and convert it to something else. So that's my exit strategies with crypto. So, each of us are going to have our own unique situation. So, but yeah, small community building is really the trick. So,
yeah, and learning more and more skills, free time,
I actually in the video that I did on Labor Day, in the middle of that video, when I sit down, I can't remember, I was probably about 10 minutes into that video. I did a really good job. I feel I actually did a really good job telling everyone and talking about, oh, thank you so much. I did a really good job of just kind of describing and explaining how I view things and how to help people get out of the rat race if that's something you're trying to do. And again, I'm more than happy to help anybody. If you need to bounce some ideas off someone, if you need to call me, if you need to talk here on Discord, which by the way, if you want to join Discord, if you use Discord, here you go. Here's a link to the Discord. Or if you want to find one of the other possible ways to get a hold of me, I am more than happy to just help whoever needs help to try to do whatever awesome thing that you want to do, because we all have something we're all really, really good at, and I think we all need to start utilizing those skills or stuff that we really want to learn. Mox really wanted to learn a bunch of stuff, so he's really he's focused on really trying to educate himself on such like that. Every year I try to learn something a little new and a little different. So some years I'm really good at doing it, and some years I'm really not. I slack. We all are a little lazy. Well, okay, I'll put it this way. I am a little lazy. Maybe some of you aren't as lazy as I am. I could do more, but sometimes I just don't feel like it. So that being said, there's some days that I just really feel like pushing forward and I want to do some really cool things. So, but again, going back, if there's anybody out there that just wants to have some conversations, you're stuck where you're at. You're on a fixed budget. You're stuck where you're at. And we're trying to figure out ways to move forward. Like me and Mock right now, we're racking our brain trying to figure out how to, with some of the goals that he wants in life in the near future, how we can figure out how to make those goals happen, and how we can, take our brains, smush it together, takes Mock's skills, and figure out ways to get what he wants to be done. So.
Yeah, and I just got a huge relief off my shoulders today that now I can really start focusing in and getting out of the rat race.
And that's one of the things, you figure out that's something that we should probably talk about in the near future, Mock, is one of the big things is once you can figure out what your stresses are, and you can figure out how to reduce those stresses in life and how to minimize those, then that gives you more bandwidth to think about other great things that you want to accomplish.
Let's do a chat ask here real quick. How many people are struggling right now and looking at eviction notices, shut-off notices, Let's hit a number 1 in chat if you are in that struggle state.
Or if you
Don't
were
be
close to
afraid.
that.
Don't
Or
be afraid, because
Yeah, if you're even close to it, that's fine. Just something if life's harder for you right now, okay. So
I know there's more than one person,
and
the
that's
others
fine.
don't have to be shy,
Yeah.
because I was.
Yeah, and you know it is
I
an
was.
opportunity. That's the thing is it absolutely is an opportunity. It's going to be an opportunity for you to be able to thrive, because sometimes sometimes you have to get you have to get your ass stuck in the fire before you're going to get up and do anything.
Any of you, look in your area for the unitedway.org of your area and reach out to them. You'll be surprised what they'll do.
And so I'm going to say something that I know to some people is very controversial here. But I just think that this is something that probably needs to be mentioned out there. So if anybody out there is having tough times, take advantage of whatever money that you possibly can. And here's the reason I say that. Because
The government
Walmart
gave a lot of money to United Way to help people right now.
Well,
Get
there's
it.
people donating money to these organizations. You've got these big corporations that are going to be more than happy to take whatever government handout that they can possibly get. If you can get that extra, if you can figure out a way to take that to take some of the money that your family has throughout the course of your life and their life has paid into, and you take that and you turn that into a way for you to thrive and for you to better your life and to move forward, you should be taking advantage of that right now, because you know that the smart and wealthy do. Because one of the key things that some of the wealthy friends has taught me is the best way to make money is to use someone else's.
Well, that's why, hence investors and banks
Yes.
make
And
other
so
people rich on their own buck.
and so what I'm simply saying there is, I'm not saying sit down and be lazy and go milk the system and not do anything with your life.
No,
I'm saying get out there, get that off of get that extra stress of not being able to eat, of not having good health care, of something like, get that stress off of you. And then take advantage of not having to worry so much about that stress, and push forward and start figuring out ways to do awesome things.
well, and
So
here, I'll try and find a
you know,
link.
and just like you said, give it away and keep the flow going. One of the other benefits, and this is something that that some of the small business people had mentioned to me, is one of the things about, some people talk about how, they really don't like being on food stamps. But if you take those food stamps and you take that money to a farmer's market, you're actually taking that money, and instead of enriching Walmart or something like that, you are taking that government money and you are actually giving like little grants to that local farmer, And so that is a really, really interesting way to give back to your local community. Or buying plants, another really great example. So
There's the link for people. There, you'll be able to get in touch with people in your area through the United Way.
Well, my days of not taking you seriously are certainly coming to a middle.
And you'll be surprised what they'll do.
And Hero and Jag, thank you so much for the lemons.
I've been having all kinds of struggles.
And Mindy
since
Docs,
2020 happened.
thank you for the 1 month sub.
I've sold off 2 race cars and toolboxes, all kinds of tools for my garage, and it's been a constant struggle since 2020 happened, and found out about this place just a couple days ago, and
again,
all
guys,
that stress is gone.
and again, all that stress, or if you need help with anything, just definitely feel free to ask. And if I know how to find the resources, so I have been blessed. I have been blessed in my life to be able to do what I'm doing here. I've made good choices. I've made good choices, and my sacrifices have worked out for me. And so I've had a lot of experiences. I know a lot of situations. I also work with I also do mission work down here in the state where I help people that are on fixed budgets try to do better things with their life. So I actually have experience doing this kind of stuff, and I'd like to share what I do with more people. And again, just to make it very clear, I'm saying ask me and I will give you my time. So, and oh yeah, you're absolutely Mind Detox. That's the one thing I do like about crypto as well, is it's an easy I guess what I like it compared to the difference between gold and silver, like Mark was saying, and in even property in that site, is that you can put it in there, and if you need to extract the wealth out of it quickly, it's easy to extract that wealth really, really quickly out of it, where, like Mark was mentioning with gold and silver, that's a little bit harder to quickly extract that wealth out of it. And yeah, in the city, there's a lot of stuff. So I was a city kid, just to make it very clear. Even though I live here in Appalachian, Southern West Virginia, I grew up in Akron, Ohio. I grew up in the inner city, and I have friends that still live up in the inner city. And so, there's actually a lot of stuff that you can do in the inner cities, especially if you're living in an inner city that is starting to crumble a little bit, and let's say you can't leave. You would be surprised. This is a trick that one of my friends did, is if you see an empty lot in your city, contact the city and tell them that you will mow that, but you also want to put in a community garden. And most of the time, the city will let you use that as long as you keep that property looking nice, like mowed down. They will let you put a community garden in there for free. My friend the city even turned on the water for them and did not charge them anything to turn the water on because they were starting this community garden. And they didn't need to do a nonprofit. They didn't need to do anything. They just asked the state. The state said sure, or the city board said sure. They mowed the lawn as soon as they made the lawn look nice and that kind of stuff. Then the city never bothered them. The city never bothered them again. And anything like now, you do run the risk of any time the city would like to sell that property, you don't own it, you're just using it. But the city most of the time, I can't see them, you having it, and just before you're ready to harvest your crops, the city selling it. I don't see that as being something that's going to happen, but just something to keep in mind.
Yeah, and a lot of cities have areas that they're probably tired of mowing, and if they can create community gardens in the communities taking care of it, they don't have to fire up the mower.
Well, that and the other trick is you can call things community gardens, and maybe it's just you and one other person, and that's fine. Like that is what I meant. Yeah. Well, no, but what I'm saying is that term community garden, instead of saying I would like to do this, you say like my community garden, my church, my school. I want to start a community garden. I want to help the community, things of that sort. That's and really, if you want to help the community, all you have to do is you could set up a little stand and you could sell some of the fruit for real cheap to the local people, so they don't live in a food desert, and then you can even make a little bit of profit off of that. So.
Right. Well, one thing that's great to grow is pumpkins, because you've grown it throughout the year, and then Halloween season comes, there's a bunch of pumpkins that the city can sell to make a little bit of money to help fix the roads.
Mm-hmm. Or you can sell. Like that could even be something like a lot of times they won't even care about anything like that because they now saved all that money of having to have that lot mowed.
But at the same time, does a community anything have a lock on it?
Okay, so you actually can, most of the time you can lock your community gardens if you need to.
Got to keep the bears out.
Got to keep the bears out, yep. And again, if anybody needs any different, like you're in a particular area and you need to bounce some ideas off of something, I have tons of them floating around in my head, bouncing around that I'm more than happy to share that I know I'll never be able to do anything with.
Yeah, I dropped those links in there for people on the 211 thing. With the United Way and that stuff, that there's a lot of good resources out there, and they don't even ask anything medically related on really much of anything. They just ask, have you been impacted by COVID and coronavirus? And you say, well, everybody has. Everybody's been impacted in some way or another. That's all they want to hear.
So the porch bees are doing well. I'm actually going to be getting into the porch bee hive in the next couple days. It's been looking like it's going to rain, and I try not to get into my hives on days it's going to rain. So we'll be getting into the porch bee. We'll be getting into the porch bee soon. We'll also be getting into, and I will make sure that this is in the description when I do it. We're also going to be going over to the Pine Cove bees. So if you guys remember, I bought those bees in May, and I split those bees in June. I split the Carney hive in June right next door. I have not been in that hive again since June. So they have went like July, August, and then the beginning of September. So 3 months without me getting into that hive. So I'm very, like, they will be hot. Like, I will, for those that enjoy watching me get stung, I will get stung getting into that particular hive because I've neglected it so much. Those hives will be a little bit angry, but I need to get into those hives. I'll probably get into those hives in a couple weeks because I need to know what's going on before winter, so I need to know if I need to feed them and get them prepared for winter. But that was another experiment. Like we talked about how there's a bunch of different experiments we'll be trying. That's a unique experiment I'm trying. So yeah, I will be bundled up that time. I'll probably still go short sleeve because short sleeve, I don't like getting bees stuck on my shirt. But I will have gloves and I will have my veil on and I will have smoke getting into those hives. But when it comes to the porch bees, man, the porch bees are totally cool. So yeah, the porch bees are cool. The porch bees, like, I don't like when I got into them, I think it was last week, like I was in there for almost an hour and I got stung once, and the reason I got stung once is because I dropped the cone. I dropped the like I always drop something. I dropped the one thing and pissed off one of the bees. But no, they're doing well. The little hive that's above them, that queen didn't take, so they're still rocking it, but they don't currently have a queen, so I'm giving them their one last shot to try to make a queen. It's really late in the year for me to try that. I'm going to have to, if they do end up making a queen and she survives and she has this, I'm going to have to baby that hive all winter long.
Really?
Oh yeah, they're weak. They'll have to live. They will be a porch bee. They might actually become in the house bees. For those that didn't know, no, in the house. 2 years ago, the hive was doing really bad outside, so I just brought him in and left him in my living room. I actually right behind me. They're actually sitting on the plants right behind me. The downfall is sometimes there was bees flying around the house, and that was not bueno. But
well, silk screen them to an area.
I could, yeah, but I could also just have bees fly around. I mean, I have bunnies running around. I have bunnies running around on the floor, so I could, But anyways, so hopefully we won't get to that particular point.
I could hear your dad. Your damn bees again.
Hopefully we won't get to that point, but again, the wonderful news is I bought 5 hives this year, and right now I have 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have 11 hives. So I am net positive, and while I want all 11 to survive the winter, if I can get 5 to make it through the winter, if I can get 4. Yeah, like Lisa points out, if I can get 1, then we're way ahead of the game. But if I can get 4 or 5, I will be super, super excited, and it'll be extra. And, yeah, and it'll be good because if I can get 1, then I can split it and have 2, and then I'll sell some more crypto and buy another hive. I don't like doing that, but and I do think I do think I let some of the other bees in the area swarm. So I do think that there are some of my bees up in the woods and that kind of stuff. And so there is the chance in the spring I could actually possibly put up a beehive and catch them. Oh yeah, Lisa's talking about I could put them in the leftover hay that we like the hay tent that we have.
Yeah. Sure could. It'll hold moisture though, huh?
I forget. I have an extra hive. I forgot about Stormy Daniels, my friend that gave me the really mean beehive that's up in the in Justin's Market Garden. I do have a hive up there, so that means I have 12 hives. That hive I didn't split. That hive was given to me, so I do have 12 hives. So I did forget about that. So okay, so Jag, that's an interesting question. If you're talking about, so I bought I'm not going to include the equipment because the equipment lasts for multiple years. But just to give you a perspective, if you want to buy the equipment, so that is a house. That's what the house sits on. The box, which I have one deep and one medium, and then the lid. That total, and with all the frames inside, that total setup is right around $100. But that $100, you can keep reusing all that equipment multiple times. The bees, I bought two types of bees. So bees come in nukes and they come in packages. So a nuke is a small established beehive that the queen has been laying and has been living with those bees for a while. Those this year cost about $200. There is the package, which is a brand new queen with a bunch of bees that are just getting to know her. Those are called packages, and those are about $125. The difference in the amount of bees is a package has probably 500 bees. A nuke has probably between 2,000 to 3,000 bees.
Wow.
So, but if you have a good functioning queen, she's going to make you lots and lots of bees. And if you pay close attention and early in the season you know what you're doing, you can easily turn one hive into two. I actually turned one hive into 4 this year just because they were just rocking it that much.
They gave you queens, huh?
Oh yeah, the one just started popping out queens like there's no tomorrow. And the Stormy Daniels hive, as long as that hive, again, that hive I'm gonna have to do some stuff with because I kind of want that queen to survive. That hive is really good at making queens. That queen is really good at making queens for some reason. So,
you could start selling them.
That
thing we were talking about, the capsules to sell your honey, wax and all.
Yes, Jag. Yeah, for roughly $300 you could get started. And there's the only three pieces of equipment that you're gonna want to buy personally is you're gonna want to buy a veil, and you can find veils for $10, maybe even cheaper than that if you really wanted. I could actually teach you how to make a veil for almost free if you just really didn't have that. You want to get a bee tool. So that tool you do want to buy a bee tool. Like hands down is one of the most useful tools I've ever had on the farm is a bee tool. It sounds ridiculous, but it's just a super useful tool. And then you want a smoker. Those are the 3 tools that you're going to have to that are outside of that $300 that I mentioned. And if you have a really good year, if you have a really good first year and you pay attention and you pay a little bit of attention to your bees, you will get roughly out of that $300 that first year. You'll probably get $100 worth of honey. And as long as those bees survive into your second year, you'll probably easily make $300, the equivalent of $300 in honey your second year. Your bees, the second year that they've lived where they've lived and they started doing stuff, they're gonna double produce because they're not gonna have to spend so much time acclimating to the new region. And that's even if you decide to split your bees. which if you have a decent hive, you should be able, by year 2, you should be able to turn 1 hive into 2 hives without too much of a hassle, and still be able to make, and still be able to double your honey production that particular year. So, and again, and if you're at all skilled at woodworking, if you can do some stuff with wood, you could cut that price of $300 down to the price of wood and the cost of bees. And then I'm going to add this third thing, and if you happen to live in an area where there happens to be bees and you put up a bee trap, there's a chance that you could capture your bees for free. So even if you live in an urban area, even if you're in a completely urban area, you can still set up bee traps. Actually, if you live in an urban area and you're thinking about getting bees, it might actually be worth calling all of the local exterminators and telling them if they find honeybees, you will take them. Because all you really need is a queen and about 2 handfuls full of bees, and that's enough to get started. Now, that also takes a lot of balls to be able to go into a house and be able to find the queen and, take out the bees. You're going to be doing some work, but, I'm just trying to think as much outside the box for folks that are on fixed income and how you can do all this kind of cool stuff.
I wouldn't advise that for someone that was new to beekeeping. I think if you're thinking of getting into beekeeping, and your way of doing it is to contact the local exterminator and tell him, look, mate, next time you get somebody phone you up wanting you to go and flush the bees out, just ring me instead, and I'll go around with my bare hands and grab them. Then, you might be able to do that.
That's hardcore stuff. That's hardcore stuff, Mark. But I'm just saying it's an option. It's just probably not an option you want to do, but it is an option.
The thing is once you commit to doing it as well, you can't back out as well.
Yeah.
There'd be some would be a lot easier to do than others, I imagine.
I mean, if you guys have not seen that video, there's the how they move bees in Africa, and this is true. This is how they move bees in Africa. The guy will grab the queen. He'll hold the queen in his hand. He'll stand there. The swarm will then come and stick to his arm. Now, most of the time, he's not going to be stung very much because the swarm's going to be here, and then he walks very quickly to where he wants to put the bees, and then he takes the queen, he throws her in the box, shakes his arm, all the bees fly into the box, and then he puts the lid on the box. So now that's intense, but let me see. I'll bring up a video for a honeybee trap. Super easy. They're actually one of the easiest things to make.
You can only do that with some species of bees. There's some species you just couldn't do that with.
Well, with honey. Oh yeah. Let me go back to Discord.
You don't get a hornet.
Yeah, but they're not gonna give you honey, so.
No, I know. That's what I mean. Don't get a hornet. They get mad. They sting a lot, and no honey.
Okay, let me put this over here. And
it's only the little bees you want. The big bees are just make wax.
So there's a good example. There's a really good example of here's a good example of this is a bee trap. And actually I think this is really interesting. This is a really cheap bee trap. That's actually just plywood. And if you look down here, that is just that I can't remember what it's called, but that stuff that road signs are made out, that campaign signs are made out of. And then there's a hole in here, and most likely this person did is this person either put in stuff called Swarm Commander, or he made a lemongrass spray. So lemongrass is actually the same hormonal smell as a queen, and so if you put lemongrass, you either put fresh lemongrass or you make it into like a tincture and you put lemongrass inside that hole. But that's just a really simple box. Let me see if some other people's got. This is personally personally, I would build something. I would build something like this, or I'd pick up something like this that holds a couple frames. That way, if you leave the trap sitting for a while, the bees start building frames for you. And if you look here right in the middle, you'll see where there is a Q-tip. That Q-tip either has lemongrass on it or it has the bee commander. And let me show you what the swarm commander looks like. So here's the swarm commander. So it's just it's a little spray bottle. It's one squirt of this onto a Q-tip. But I'll let you know, like, it's not cheap. So this little bottle is $30. But it works. It really does work. I have swarm command. The reason I have swarm commander is just in case I have problems with. I was worried about one of the queens running away, and I really wanted those bees. I didn't want them to run away, and so I had that. I kept that like that just in case. You know what? Let me show you. Like, I just let me translate this back. Just to show you, like, there are people building bee traps out of pretty much whatever they have access to. So a lot of times people build them out of wood, but then there's people, building them. They those are reusable bee traps that they build out of stuff like that. It's pretty crazy, the stuff that you can capture bees in, just because they want to, when they're swarming, bees are just looking for a hole.
And certain plywoods have formaldehyde in it, so you're not going to want much of the product that's on that plywood.
But let me show you this. That right there, if you guys see that on the screen, that is a dream to find, because that is one heck of a colony. If I could catch bees like that bees right there would start producing you honey like crazy.
That's a lot of bees.
That is a lot of bees, yeah. And the thing is, guys, unless you really, really piss off the bees and then you stick around, like, if you piss off the bees, you should always walk away and calm down. If you start having problems with the bees, you'll get used to being stung. You won't get stung very often. Like, I would say, out of all the times that I've gotten my bees, I've probably been stung the least this year. So I've been probably stung the least this year than other years. So, it's funny. I won't, saying this right now, I'm saying this, I have no desire to ever wear a full suit. Of course, I will wear a veil and I will wear gloves, but I don't. If you're having to get into that full suit, you're doing something. Even if you're extracting bees from a job, you're doing something wrong. So you shouldn't be getting stung that much. And if you're wearing blue jeans, you're maybe only gonna get one bee that's gonna be able to sting through your blue jeans. So. Oh, I just want to show you guys. Because I don't have them very often on my hives. So this is what that's what a queen cell looks like. If you see how it looks like a giant peanut, that's a queen cell. And that's the queen emerging from the queen cell. And what's still so cool is even though they still have the little tiny shapes on them. I still think it's so rather interesting about how they do that. So well, any other questions for this evening? Anything else that anybody else has out there? Anything else you'd like me to cover? Anything else you'd like to chit chat about? Anything you'd like me to talk about?
stocks?
Anything you'd like me to talk about next week? I can do a little bit of preparing, and if there's anything anybody wants me to talk about next week. Later this week, I'll probably be doing a Let's Feed Chickens. We might go for a
Well,
walk.
my days are not taking you seriously are certainly coming to a middle.
You know, I'm not sure. It all depends
Well,
on
my days are
how
not
busy
taking
and
you
such is.
seriously are certainly coming to a middle.
Jag, thanks for the lemons. Very much appreciate it. Well, if there's not anything else that you guys would like to talk about this evening, or anything else that anybody'd like to bring up, I think I will probably be heading off. So, yeah, I will probably do a Let's Feed the Chickens. If not tomorrow, the next day. So,
It always has a bonus with feeding the bunnies too.
and feeding the bunnies. As long as just a heads up, guys, for those that are interested, is as long as everything works out, as long as I get the video and such, starting the morning on September 11th, I every year I play a video of minute by minute breakdown of the news coverage of 9/11. So if anybody's interested, I'll start that I think I usually start that at about 8:15. I try to get it lined up to the same time. So anybody that wasn't around, that didn't get to see didn't get the news coverage feels like, I'll be playing that. I do that every year in memory of 9/11, just so people can see what it felt like. There's a really good video group of that, so I'll have that. But other than that, we'll be talking about Let's Feed the Chickens. We'll be trying to go out and bees, and then next Thursday, I'm trying to do this every Thursday. We'll be doing that kind of stuff on Thursdays and such like that. So thank you guys again for everyone that swung by, everybody that participated. Thank you, Mock and Mark and Golf and Jag and Mind Detox and Any Word. And I think I forgot somebody else that was around. Oh, Hero to Zero, and everybody else that was around. Thank you guys for being here, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of the evening. And I will leave you off with a fun song. So see you guys next week.
Bye.
Cheers.
And Gofferby.
I'm digging in, getting ready for what comes. I'm digging in, nowhere for me to run. Gloves are coming off, I'm still looking for what's lost tonight. I'm digging in, I'm gonna go face my past. This mess I'm in, this close.